I'm Drew.
And I'm John. This episode and every future episode is dedicated to the horror hounds and smokers out there who want to expand their knowledge of the genre and have a good time.
Today is our 20th episode and season finale. It's crazy to think that we did this show for more than 20 weeks straight. If you count our special episodes, that is. Which, if you haven't listened to our review of Sinister yet, make sure you do so. John, 20 episodes straight, bro.
What a long, strange trip it's been.
Well, yeah, it's been a beautiful ride. It's been a rocky ride. It's been a fun ride. Today we're going to review the 2021 short film It Knows You're Alone, which, if you're a fan of full moon movies, you should know about. If not, check it out. It's only about 46 minutes long, and it's well worth your time. Today we're also talking with the writer, producer, and director Chris Allender. He's going to spill his guts to us in an exclusive interview, as well as actor Bee Dawley. They're going to spill their guts to us in an exclusive interview as well. All that and more today on High on Horror. Interviews, reviews, and the latest news all rolled into one. And now it's time for Strain Wreck, the segment where John and I discuss which strain we're getting wrecked on in each episode. John, it looks like you got some good shit over there, man. What do you got going on for us today? What are we smoking?
I got that Bewitched. It's from Ocean Grown Seeds. It's a cross between OGS Wizard's Potion and the famous Witch's Weed. It's a 50-50 hybrid. It has a wide variety of flavors with layers of grape, forest floor, grapefruit.
Forest floor,
dog.
Forest floor, though.
Its terpene profile has been described as cupcake-ish. The effects of Bewitched are therapeutic, muting stress, anxiety, and nausea with ease. And it is 28.7% THC.
Sounds beautiful. Sounds absolutely beautiful. I am so ready to try that. Is that the fat one you got laying over there? The fat blunt laying there?
Yeah, I picked up these. They're called King Palm. It's a watermelon wave. They're real leaf rolls. They hold a gram and a half. So there's a lot of Bewitched in there. It contains terpenes derived from fruit. I don't know much about these, but pretty much you just fill up it's already like wrapped for you with a filter, and you just fill it up, and then apparently you're supposed to crack this thing and you get some flavor up in it.
Oh shit. See, the thing is, I don't actually like watermelon, but watermelon wraps I can tolerate. So this looks like a high quality wrap, so I'm definitely willing to check it out.
And I threw some of that Bruce Banner 2.0 ice hash on here as well.
Ooh, ice hash. Okay. You gonna spark it up? Hell yeah. So I wanted to bring something up, something that's really annoying to me. Stoners and horror films. Why is every stoner projected as an idiot or a dumbass? Like, it's such a cliche, dude. You know what I mean? Like you can't be smart and smoke. You know, like weed smokers are the dumb bimbos that trip and fall in the woods of drug takers in movies. You know, like, the only ones I can think of off the top of my head is Marty from Cabin in the Woods and Big John from Halloween Kills. They weren't completely helpless.
Laurie Strode. In fairness, we don't know if she was a stoner, but her and Andy, holy shit, I'm fucking ripped already. Fucking Annie, her and Annie were smoking. But, I mean, in fairness, it is a bad stereotype, but also a lot of stoners do stuff it doesn't help the cause.
Right, but we can't count characters like Shaun and Ed from Shaun of the Dead because they were already dumbasses, you know what I mean? Like, they don't count. But that was a good call about Laurie Strode. I mean, technically I wouldn't call her a stoner, but she is a final girl that did smoke, so I never even considered that.
I brought that up last week. Well, not here with somebody I was talking with, but I said, is Laurie Strode the first final girl to smoke weed and get to live?
What about Chuck and Chili from Friday the 13th Part 3? They're good people. They're just fucking burnouts.
Right? They're definitely burnouts. They were probably following the dead, dropping acid too. Yeah,
another one from Freddy vs. Jason, Freeberg. I swear to God, for the longest time, man, in high school, I thought his name was Freebird. Freddy vs. Jason, it's Freeberg. And, I mean, it would have made a lot more sense to be Freebird than Freeberg, but
I mean, you mean Jason Mewes, and then they couldn't get Jason Mewes. It literally said we're still gonna have Jason Mewes in the movie, but not Jason Mewes.
Yeah, that goalie was pissed about something.
Dude, it was so ridiculous. He was so obviously a rip of Jay, where in Curse of Michael Myers, that dude is obviously supposed to be Howard Stern.
Correct. I mean, but I did enjoy the shit out of Freeberg though. He was funny. I did enjoy him. I mean, I was a little sad when he got cut in half. But okay, what about Anton Tobias, Devin Sawa from Idle Hands? You ever see Idle Hands?
I have not.
Okay, yeah, he's just just a typical stoner. You know, he's a dumbass in a tight spot. You know, one that I have for you though that I was thinking, Palmer from The Thing. That's about the fucking most chillest, coolest fucking smoker in a horror film.
I don't know why I always forget about him when I think about stoners in movies. But yeah, like when I was rewatching it in October, every time it pops up, I'm like, oh yeah. Carpenter liked his stoners.
Oh yeah.
That's who I want to fucking smoke a blunt, smoke a bong, smoke a bowl with and have on here.
Oh my God.
John Carpenter, that'd be amazing.
If that happened, I would legit like...
Damn, you just ashing on my rolling tray. Disrespectful.
My bad, bro. No, if smoking with John Carpenter, that's bucket list shit right there. If that happened, I would gladly roll over and die the next day a happy man.
If we got John Carpenter, I would watch Rob Zombie's Halloween for 24 hours straight.
So I would die of happiness. You would die of torture.
I'm saying that's what I'm willing to sacrifice.
It'd be like 28 days later. You'd be like one of the monkeys, like strapped to the chair with your eyes held open, forced to watch Rob Zombie's Halloween instead of it being like chaos and riots in the streets and the news and violence. You're just watching Halloween on loop.
It could be worse. I mean, I still get to talk to John Carpenter in the end, but apparently my brain's fried. Yeah, that thing tastes pretty good.
Yeah, this Bewitched is really good. It's definitely fruity and it smells delicious.
Yeah, I think that wraps give it a little bit of flavor as well.
So what? It looks like you got the bong loaded too, though. Or is that Bewitched as well, or are we doing something else?
I got that for a little bit later. That's Fozzy. At Chris Jericho.
Fozzy?
I just call
Chris
it
Jericho's
Judas in my mind.
I'm becoming fucking high.
This has 22.4% THC. I was showing it to you. Well, I showed you both of them, but this one has just super dark, almost like black spots.
Oh, that's the dark one you were showing me.
Yeah. That's the indica one. It has more of a sour citrus, sweet berry with maybe candy undertones. It's a heavier strain that has more sedating effects. It's best suited for nighttime use.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean we're recording at night, so after we get done here, I'll just go right to bed. But it's also good for treating pain like muscle spasms, and it's good with insomnia, which is always my problem.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like you definitely picked the right strains for us to smoke to. I mean, or smoke. I mean, I'm high. Definitely. Thank you for choosing these two strains for us
No
to
problem,
smoke. I
man.
can't wait to get to the next one. We're only on the first one.
I was gonna say though, speaking of, we're throwing out open invitations for season 2. I guess if Chris Jericho wants to come on and smoke some Fozzy with us, that'd be cool as well. I mean, he went on Joe Bob.
Yeah, he did. He didn't smoke with Joe Bob. If we could get Chris Jericho to smoke,
We're basically same level as
that'd
Joe
be
Bob,
amazing.
right?
I mean, no.
Fair enough.
But anyway, on a side note though, I wanted to bring something that I thought was pretty interesting. I had talked to you before about what I'm currently reading. I'm reading Bruce Lee's biography by Matthew Polly titled A Life. And it clearly states that Bruce Lee was a big advocate of cannabis. He loved it. I had no idea. I would have thought that somebody like him was against it because of just being a lazy stoner and all that shit. But
No, he was like the 70s Eddie Bravo.
dude, he actually rolled cigar-sized blunts and would pass them out to everyone at parties. People would tell him Bruce, you don't need that much. Just roll one and pass it. That's how this works. But he insisted that everyone had them fatty daddies. He said that the high of cannabis is the ideal mindset to have. You're relaxed, alert, energetic, and focused. He said that it was a feeling he'd strived to get from being a martial artist because smoking weed all the time isn't doable. Oh, Bruce, if only you lived longer, because you don't know, brother. You don't know. We smoke it all day. It is doable.
So you telling me I'm like the 8th degree black belt on him when it comes to smoking weed?
Maybe that's the one black belt you can ever have over the dude.
I mean, and also, like, I'm pretty confident I could outsmoke him right now.
Yeah, I mean, if Bruce Lee were alive, I would love to. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger smoked. I don't know if he still does, but
that video of him with the cigars fucking gets me every time.
Could you imagine like Bruce Lee and Schwarzenegger like smoking? Like that would just. I mean, I don't know. That stuff's cool to me, man. Bruce Lee smoking. That just goes to show you that if someone as philosophical and as intelligent and as inspirational and as iconic as Bruce Lee smoked, to all you listeners out there who don't smoke, don't hate it. You don't gotta like it, but there's obviously something about it if everyone's drawn to it like they are. And if even Bruce Lee approves of it, come on. That kind of, like, that to me, like, makes, if you had an issue with weed, knowing that Bruce Lee condoned it, I think it's kind of like, oh, okay, touche. Am I wrong in that? I kind of feel that his stamp of approval means something.
I don't really think, honestly, to most people now that probably matters. I mean, we're
maybe.
I mean, I feel like our generation was one of the last ones to really grow up with Bruce Lee. I feel like the younger generations don't really know who he is.
Damn shame.
Yeah, he put out some badass movies, just like I kind of put him with like Eastwood. They kind of made, he was making the westerns while Bruce Lee was making the martial arts films, and like we grew up with them growing up, but then like after us, like I don't think you would talk to much teenagers or people in their early 20s and they really know anything about Bruce Lee or Clint Eastwood.
Oh, well, that's a damn shame.
They were running Hollywood back then.
Yeah. Well, that's their problem. But could you imagine, though, like, if Bruce Lee had lived long enough to do horror movies? Like, imagine if it were him that roundhouse Busta Rhymes. I'm sorry, though. Imagine if it were him that roundhouse.
So he teaming up with Michael, dog?
No, imagine if it were him.
Damn, now he's definitely unbeatable. Halloween ain't ending.
Listen, if it was Bruce Lee that roundhouse kicked Michael Myers in Halloween Resurrection, I think that movie and that whole thing would have... Obviously, everybody shits on the fact that it's Busta Rhymes, but just saying, if Bruce Lee was in there whooping Michael Myers' ass, it's a little bit more understandable, and I think it actually would kind of be pretty badass.
I feel like it'd be even more ridiculous.
You're probably right. Are you okay over there, bro?
Yeah, I'm dying. It's fine.
Look, oh shit, I'm baked, man. Let's get sailing into horror history.
This week in horror history.
So, we've had a string of just great movies week after week. So many that, we couldn't even talk about all of them. And we just pick out a couple each week.
Yeah.
So, is that ball still rolling? You tell me.
No.
We have from 1997, Alien Resurrection, and from 2007, 10 years later, Wreck. This is about the only noteworthy movies this week. And I haven't seen Wreck. It did not look good to me when I saw the trailers. And Alien Resurrection's Alien Resurrection. It's god awful. They really should have just stopped after 2.
Alien Resurrection is ass on a stick. It's pure, unadulterated ass.
It's a disgrace to Sigourney Weaver.
It's a disgrace to the Alien franchise. It's weird that you said that you didn't think REC looked good, because it's one of, if not the best found footage film ever, in my opinion. It's short and to the point. It's claustrophobic and panic inducing. It's demonic possession by accidental biological warfare. It's absolutely horrifying. I fucking love that movie. Definitely, we're gonna have to get baked and watch that.
I mean, I'll watch it. I've watched a lot of shit, so
take my word for it. It's good.
Alien Resurrection.
That's what I was going to say. Let's get into the Alien Resurrection talk.
On paper, I tell you, the first 3 actors, Sigourney Weaver, Winona Ryder, Ron Perlman. You think, okay.
Okay. maybe this could be
I
something.
can
right?
understand you don't like them, but they're not bad actors. Even if you don't like the kind of movies they make, you can't
Right.
say, "Oh, they're terrible at what they do."
They're credible actors, credible names. Yeah.
I mean, listen. I'm going to give you the Wikipedia description of for the cast. Sigourney Weaver is Ripley 8, reprising her role from the previous 3 Alien films. After sacrificed herself to the alien queen, gestating inside her in Alien 3, she's been cloned using blood samples so the military may extract a queen embryo. Like it's bad.
Yeah, that story was reaching. The whole series was reaching at that point. I mean, it's weird. It's like James Cameron puts the stamp on the second film in franchises. After Terminator 2, they could never get the series back on track. It should have ended. After Aliens, same thing. It should have ended. Have we ever lived up to Aliens since then? Even come close?
No. Aliens is an Alien and Aliens are two different movies, two different movies like genres.
Directed by two different people.
By two different people, but it doesn't feel like it ruined the universe in any way. It felt like they both fit together just fine.
I thought it elevated it. I thought it was like, how could we take the slow burn of Alien and turn it into high-paced military action?
Yeah, and I mean, I still love Pac-Man's line, "Game over, man."
I know. And Michael Biehn is great in that movie. Like, what a great cast. But look at that. We're talking about Alien Resurrection. End up on Aliens.
To talk about the better ones.
Yeah, right. But no, that little hybrid, the hybrid thing at the end of the film, man, it's just hideous. It's stupid looking. Like Alien, it's one of those ones where even when I'm watching movies, and I decide to go through a series, then regardless of the bad ones, I'll still watch them in order. And Alien Resurrection is one of those ones where like I either skip it, or if I do it, I legit have like the disc in the Blu-ray tray and I'm just staring at it going, like it's a dreadful watch. It's almost like, why am I doing this to myself?
I only own 1 and 2.
I don't see a reason to really watch Resurrection again. I don't know. It's like I like to keep brushing up on my history, so I want to keep it fresh in my mind. But I don't know why. I should just let it die.
It's fine, bud. You can let it go.
Yeah, I definitely should. I need to save what brain cells I have left for better shit.
And you know what? I'm sorry. I can't believe I forgot another actor in it. Brad Dourif.
That's right. That's
So
right. Yeah, he plays a
4.
grimy little character.
He does play a lot of grimy characters, though.
He does. He's a good actor, though. I liked when he was the exterminator in Graveyard Shift.
That was good. I was going to say Josh Whedon, who he's canceled now or whatever, right?
It's Joss Whedon.
Joss,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Yes, he's canceled now, I believe.
He worked as a screenwriter for 20th Century Fox. His initial screenplay had a third act on Earth with a final battle for Earth itself. Whedon wrote 5 versions of the final act, none of which ended up in the film.
I mean, yeah. I mean, well, Whedon did some good stuff, man. He did Buffy. He did the Avengers, the first Avengers film. I mean, he was credible, But yeah, he's been canceled and rightfully so. But I mean, it's surprising that he actually penned this because it's such a dud.
Yeah, and Sigourney Weaver wanted to use Alien 3 to get out of the franchise.
And they roped her back in. They
They
Laurie
roped her
Strode
back
her.
in. She liked Whedon's script.
I don't know why, but okay.
Yeah, I don't know why either. Yeah, it sucks that our season finale, this is our horror history,
Yeah.
is these 2 movies. And then I never read them, but did you ever get into the comic series that followed this? It was Alien versus Predator versus Terminator.
I do. I own one. I've never read it, but I own one. I still have it on the bag and board. I got it at a comic book sale. I do own several Alien comic books though. Fire and Stone. There's several actually, but yeah. The only one with the Terminator involved. I only own one.
Yeah, there was only ever 4 made, but I mean the cover looks awesome, but it does also sound ridiculous when you say it out loud though.
It's pure fantasy. It's pure comic book
It
shit.
sounds like a 7-year-old after seeing all 3 of these movies was like, you know what? They should all fight each other.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that was like I said, I haven't read it, but I feel that it was probably Definitely more aimed towards a younger audience. I can only imagine, especially back then.
Yeah, and I think we'll end horror history here for this season.
If you don't like what we're saying, if you're disappointed, just go back and listen to our other episodes. We got some awesome horror histories there.
And now it's time for Puff Puff Ask, the segment of our show where Drew and I answer questions that you send us through Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at High on Horror 420, and through email at highonhorror420@gmail.com.
Yo, man. Puff, puff, pass.
All right, I'll start us off here with a question from a loyal listener named Joey Medina from Ontario, California.
Yo, I got that Fozzie shit. Should I throw some more of that Brucey B on top?
Brucey B? Hell yeah, let's do it, man. It's the finale.
Yep, go ahead.
All right, Joey is a big fan, actually, and he listens every Monday while he's at work. And I want to say, we want to say, thank you so much for the kind words and the support, Joey.
And he comments on a lot of our stuff, too.
Yeah, all over social media. Yeah, John and I will hit the blunt for you, or the bong, rather. We appreciate you, Joey. He asks, since the holidays are approaching, my favorite Christmas-themed horror is Night of the Comet. That's a great fucking movie. I've loved it since first seeing it at 13 in the theater. It's funny, scary, and it's got Valley Girls. What's not to love? Do you guys have a favorite Christmas-themed horror movie that you watch every year as well?
Damn, my bad. I'm dropping lighters over here and shit.
Spoiler alert, we're actually planning a Christmas episode where we're going to talk about our favorite genre holiday pictures, so I'm not going to go into too much info. And name you a list or I'm not going to embellish on it, but to answer your question, Santa's Sleigh from 2005, starring Bill Goldberg, the wrestler, and directed by David Steeman.
I mean, anything's got to be better than his wrestling skills.
I cannot go a year without watching Santa's Sleigh. It's become an absolute essential for me around the holidays, but there's a lot more I watch around then as well. So make sure that everybody tunes into our Christmas special to hear what John and I have to say and name off our Christmas list of horror films.
Yeah, I guess I probably shouldn't give away my favorite, but I think everybody can easily guess it, so maybe I should just go ahead and say it anyway. But it's Black Christmas. The original is my favorite. But another one is Trash Day. That movie is not good.
Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. Yeah, I'm not a fan.
It's not good, but Trash Day just makes up for that whole movie.
I disagree, but okay.
Dude, I forget when Joe Bob hosted it, but I watched it through the whole thing just to get to that part.
You're gonna give me shit for the fucking rake fight scene and hobgoblins, but turn around and say that shit that you just said to me.
Dude, it's everything, like his head, like the head bobble, like everything.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. That movie, some people love it, some people hate it. I never got it. It's like Slumber Party Massacre 2. I never got that shit either.
Yeah, I mean, Silent Night, Deadly Night's a good one too. Oh man, that fucking Fozzie getting me. I forget what I had another one lined up and I just completely lost it now. I don't know. You got any more horror fuck man. Any more fucking horror themed Christmas ones?
No. I'm gonna save them for the Christmas episode. I'm only gonna say Santa's Sleigh today.
All right. What's your overall favorite Christmas movie?
That's not horror. Okay.
That's not horror.
That's not necessarily horror, rather. Okay. It's a Wonderful Life. I think It's a Wonderful Life is one of the greatest movies ever made, period. And I think it's the best Christmas movie. That's my academic answer. My answer, as opposed to like getting baked and just like enjoying myself on the holidays, is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
You and Josh both have the same one. It's a Wonderful Life. I watched it for the first time last year. I even watched the extended cut because Josh said that's the one I should watch. It's like 20 minutes too long. Everybody hates my you can't tell people that. This movie's like sacred to people. Mine is ridiculous. It's Die Hard. It's a Christmas movie. I don't care what you say. I mean, everybody, the one argument is, Bruce Willis said it's not. Yeah, well, guess what? The person who wrote the goddamn movie, the person that wrote it, made the story, created it, they said it's a Christmas story. There's like, I mean, they have Christmas songs in it. Granted, they're not traditional. Takes place like at a Christmas party at work. Like, there's enough Christmas in there. It just also has guns and violence and German terrorists.
You go ahead and you justify it being a Christmas movie, and I'm going to justify It's a Wonderful Life not being 20 minutes too long.
I mean, I'm right, you're wrong. That's all we got to say.
Well, I mean, on the other side of that, I'm right and you wrong. No. But seriously, I do like Die Hard as well. I do disagree with what you said about It's a Wonderful Life, but that's cool. That's cool. You can't always share the great stuff with everybody, you know. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm good on that question. Ben from Raleigh, North Carolina said, you guys talked about Freddy and Jason on your Halloween discussion episode, which was fantastic, by the way. I laughed a lot.
Thank you.
I wanted to know who you guys thought won in Freddy versus Jason. My friend and I still argue about it. I'll go first. I mean, I feel like it's pretty clear. I mean, everybody talks about Freddy winking, but like his head ain't on his body. Jason just carrying that out.
Okay, well, it's good that we didn't talk about this beforehand because I disagree. I say Freddy won. I think Jason won with assistance, and he wasn't even the one to decapitate Freddy.
So he assisted. That Freddy won by DQ.
He assisted the decap because he was too fucked up from what Freddy had done to him. Freddy got up and was still about to kill him. All Jason had in him was stabbing him, and he dropped his ass back in the water. He didn't do shit. It was the female lead who took Freddy's head off. I think Freddy won because he beat Jason's ass. And the thing is, I'm a Jason fan. It hurts to say that, but Freddy fucked him up. I mean, I think Freddy fucked him up. Dude stabbed his fucking eyes out. I mean, Jason couldn't do shit but float in the water by the end. And even with the one arm Freddy had, he was still trying to kill Laurie with, and Will.
I mean, he did stab him with his own claw.
Freddy was unstoppable in that movie, though. So between Freddy and Jason, I stand by Freddy winning.
Whoa.
Laurie beat Freddy with Jason's help. Jason didn't beat Freddy in any way, shape, or form. Sorry.
I can't believe the slander. As much as you love Jason,
a lot of Jason fans can't take the heat, man.
Movie. It took Freddy forever to get a kill because Jason was just taking them all. He didn't dominate the whole movie.
He dominated Jason. Okay, here's the deal. You're the sports fan, not me. When you have a favorite team, okay, this is the best scenario that I can break it down for, the best metaphor that I can break it down. When you have a team that you're behind, a favorite team, and they get their ass beat in a one-sided game or almost one-sided game, you got to take that heat. You got to take that loss. You're still a fan. You got to take that one on the chin. For Jason fans, including myself, got to take this one on the chin. Laurie's the one that beat Freddy. It wasn't Jason. Jason picked his head up after someone else cut it off. And I'm a Jason fan, but that's the way it is. It hurts to say it.
And look, you can argue that he won. That's fine. I'm just saying you can't say that Freddy dominated the whole movie. You're rewriting the narrative that Jason was just useless.
No, I'm not trying to say Jason was useless. That's not what I'm saying at all. Jason was a beast, and Jason put up a fight. But I mean, like, when you look at the body of work, like if we were judges, if we're MMA fans, right? We like the UFC. If we were judges and we're watching everything that got done to them, what they're doing, and you're seeing like Freddy's kind of winning the stand up. He's ducking and dodging, hitting Jason with propane tanks, stabbing him with fucking what are those things called? Those rods. Those rods that fall through impale Jason to the ground. Then that fucking big ass thing is swinging around and smacking Jason, and then like I said, the fingers cutting off, the eyes getting cut through. I mean, Jason rips his arm off, but besides that, it's just like a couple of punches and some machete wax.
Drive his fingers through him.
He kind of was his
like he took
his nubs. Yeah.
I mean, Jason's putting up a fight.
I agree. I don't think he won.
He came back like, here, I'll put it in terms for you. He was getting rocked, and then he hits him with his own claw. He just hit that sweet chin music and just fell on top for the victory. You know what that's like.
Yeah, I guess I can get that. You got to take a win where you can get it. But, I mean, yeah, a lot of people consider that Jason's holding Freddy's head, that means Jason won. And I honestly never saw it like that.
Oh, I don't think we're going to change each other's opinion on this.
Either way, I still love the movie, though. That's all that matters.
I think we can argue that if it was C.J. Graham, he would have won.
Yeah, I could probably agree with that. I'd even give it to Kane Hodder.
Well, yeah, Kane, too.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, thank you for writing in.
Hey, you know what? We're going to throw in a third question for the season
Oh, okay.
finale.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Our boy Kenny had a question.
All right, Kenny.
If we, on the podcast, if we could interview anybody from horror, not the actors, so like, you're not saying Bruce Campbell, you would be saying Ash Williams. Like,
interview somebody in character.
not even in character, just like the character themselves, like that you see on the screen. Like, who would you want to interview? Like,
So
who would be
pure
at the top of your
fantasy,
list?
like who would I like just right off the screen? Who would I interview for the?
Dr.
Okay.
Loomis.
I mean, that would be a crazy dude. That whole episode would be so deep. You imagine how much weed we'd
I
smoke?
know.
It'd be so deep. It'd be turned into this
We'd
whole
have
psychological
a whole series
breakdown.
of just Dr. Loomis episodes just talking about Michael through the years.
Since when did the movie reviews turn into like breaking down people becoming serial killers every week?
It's just gonna be one episode for each year of Michael's life. You go from like age 6, age 7.
I guess my answer would be pluck Elvira right out of Mistress of the Dark, because that would be a hilarious interview.
Man, I feel like that's a cheat.
That would be a hilarious interview.
I'm trying to think of who else.
That's an interesting question, though. I like that question. I like fantasy questions.
I mean, I would be worried he would try to kill me, but Chucky.
Oh my god, that'd be amazing if you just sat here on the table, like smoking a blunt with us, talking shit.
Yeah, like you're over here to my right. If he was just at the other far end of the table, you in like a booster seat,
Just talking shit on Andy Barkley.
Yeah, we get Alex Vincent back on.
No, Chucky, like the doll. That's awesome. That would be hilarious.
I'd just be worried he'd try to kill us.
I mean, he would definitely kill us, but I don't think that he sees anything else where he'd want to trade our bodies. He'd be like, "Nah, I'll stay in this doll."
You got anybody else you can think of?
I just burned the shit out of both of us. You just walked through it like I didn't see nothing.
I don't need to acknowledge.
I guess. I mean, you already said it, but I'll drop it anyway. Ash. I think.
Yeah.
If not from the movies though, Ash from the show, from Ash vs. Evil Dead, like older, ridiculous, even more ridiculous Ash. That would be like, yeah. That would
Dude,
Elvira and Ash.
You want to know who I feel like we'd be interviewing? It would be like an older Theo Von. I feel like he would just have these ridiculous stories he would like just make up.
I mean, what about all right, so some people say that it's not horror and they're wrong. What about Beetlejuice? Can you imagine smoking a blunt with Beetlejuice?
Yeah, he weird though.
Like, no, I'm talking about like Michael Keaton Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Okay. Not Howard Stern Beetlejuice.
I mean, would I smoke a blunt with Howard Stern's Beetlejuice?
No, Michael Keaton.
I know.
Beetlejuice.
No. I know that's not the question. I'm just pondering that as a follow-up. I feel like, yeah, but I feel like after I smoked it, I would give it to him and just like not give it back.
Dude, Beetlejuice?
Yeah, I'd be like, you know what, you got it and keep it. Just so I could say I smoked with him.
I would smoke with both of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's others I'm thinking of that just aren't popping to mind. The dude from why can't I think of it? Cabin in Woods. We were mentioning earlier.
Marty.
The stoner. Yeah, Marty.
Yeah. Smoking with him would be cool.
But he would have to bring on that mug. I want that coffee mug.
Yeah, I know. Again, another Bruce Campbell one. What if we did him as Sebastian Hath from Bubba Hotep?
Yeah, that would be a good one.
Or like doing Jason or Michael Myers would be hilarious because they just sit there silent. Like,
nah, they definitely kill us.
No, I can't remember. I'm so terrible with names, man. Who was the talk show host that had Jason on?
Arsenio Hall.
Yes, there you go.
It was
so terrible with
the
names.
Kane Hodder one.
Yeah, like that shit
He
cracks
also had
me
the
up.
Ultimate Warrior on.
Oh, jeez.
Dude, that shit was ridiculous.
How many more wrestling references are you gonna drop this episode?
Dude, you got to see like compared to 2 interviews of like Ultimate Warrior just saying gibberish, it makes no sense, and then just like Kane Hodder literally doing an interview where he just sits there.
I would like to see the Ultimate Warrior cut a promo on Jason.
That would be ridiculous.
All right, well, all right, we're gonna end that there. We're rambling because we're baked. This is our season finale, as we've mentioned. So don't forget to write in your questions to us so we can get them ready for season 2. Season 2 is going to be happening, picking up January 10th. So make sure you write in some questions to us so we can, compile them and, maybe you'll make it on the air next season. You can write into us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter at highonhorror420 or email us at highonhorror420@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. Thank you all who have written us this season, and thank you all who are going to write us for next season. We truly appreciate hearing from you. And now it's time to get into our review/discussion of this week's film, It Knows You're Alone.
It Knows You're Alone is a 2021 film directed by and written by Chris Alexander, starring Bee Dawley and Ali Chappell. And after finding an old nautical phone washed up on the shore, Natalie begins having dreams of the device ringing, followed by the presence of a shrouded woman in black. Natalie's already fragile grip on reality begins to slip.
This is obviously a micro-budget effort across the board, but we like what we saw. The poster art for this one really pulled me in. I like how, although it's only 46 minutes long, that it's still paced well enough to be a slow burn with the dramatic payoff ending. I genuinely liked this one because I had no idea where it was going. You all right? You okay?
That ice cream cake got me, dog.
Oh, what is that? Let me hit that. Anyway,
season finale. That's a vape.
It Knows You're Alone. It doesn't follow any template or typical structure, so I was invested. There's a lot where nothing happens, but there's still enough going on not to bore you. And Natalie, the lead actor, played by Bee Dawley, is very nice on the eyes. They carry the movie well for a generally unknown actor.
I was going to say they did a really good job. And also there's a lot of times where they're alone and have to just kind of carry the scene by themselves with no audio. Well, audio, no dialogue.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost it's a silent movie for most of the movie.
That's true. And that nautical phone, have you ever seen a nautical phone before that?
No, I have not. But it looks pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, because when I was reading the description about the phone, I'm like, what the hell kind of phone? Like, I've seen some old phones. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Well, we did not watch this together when we watched it. So, like, what were your initial thoughts on it when you first saw it?
It was interesting, and it felt, there's times where you could say it felt slow, but it wasn't really slow. It's a short movie, but I feel like it plays out just right with its pacing. And sometimes when you're watching it I think the beginning, it feels like it's a little slow, but then after the end, it makes sense.
Agreed. And Natalie lives by herself in a house, and it's apparent that she doesn't have a full basket of apples. Now, she's going a little cuckoo in solitude, and broke off her lesbian relationship with Sasha, played by Ali Chappell, for no apparent reason. She's just going mad. The big question is, did her finding the phone really bring something supernatural into her life? Like, was the phone a conduit for something supernatural, or was it a conduit for her insanity to let loose and make her lose what was left of her marbles? That's the big question of the film.
It's like Rick in season 3 of The Walking Dead. back when the show was still good. He was getting phone calls.
Yeah, well, I mean, I gave up after season 2, but yeah.
Nah, I feel like you were there for a little bit longer than that, but like the prison stuff was pretty good. But
you remember more about my watching it than I remember.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyway, I'll go back. I was just making the reference there. Yeah, I mean, it's well done. Like I was saying with also with the plot, there's a lot that's not explained, but it works in its favor. It's like it's a little capsule of some world somewhere, and it's things are happening here that don't, normally happen. It's just some special place. It kind of has like its own like world feel to it.
I agree, and I almost like I like that it's a modern movie, but I almost feel that this movie is I feel that it would have gone over better or just been more appreciated by more people if it was an older film. Like, this is a total VHS movie. This is totally a movie that like you find in like a box or a crate at like a flea market of VHSs, and you're like, hey, I've never heard of this one. It's this little short film from this, independent film company, and you pop it in, and it's everything that you want out of an old school, like, independent, cheaply made VHS movie. It's exactly that. It's just now it's made in a more digital era.
Yeah, I feel like it fits like it would have fit in real good in like the early to mid 90s.
Agreed. Like right up there with Tales from the Quad Dead Zone and all that stuff. Like, yeah, it totally would have gone right in with that. I just see this as being one of those movies like with the cool cover, the poster art, just being one of those like, and everybody just going ape shit for it and spending a ton of money on it. I would love to actually see Full Moon do a VHS of that. So
I want the poster.
I know, I do too. I'd like a little. I mean, I don't have room for any more big posters, but a little 11x17 would do just fine.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, and I like the short runtime. It doesn't try to stretch this out to an hour and a half movie, which I think if it was that long, it wouldn't have worked as well.
100%, and that's something about Full Moon movies where a lot of their films aren't even complete feature length. It's always some of them are like an hour and 15, like barely over an hour. Like they let the movie be what it is and then cut it off. They're not worried about dragging it into a full-fledged movie, and I think that works a lot of the time.
And the other thing, yeah, with the short run times, it always makes me think of the Universal Monsters. Most of those were like 75, 85 minutes.
Yeah, and like
they did what they needed to do and they got out.
Exactly. And there's another Full Moon movie that I like called Dog Graveyard, and it's the same thing. I think it might be an hour and 17, maybe even an hour and 12 minutes, and it's like it just feels like a complete movie. It's like it doesn't have like I like the movies where they just tell the story and get out. I think that a lot of people, when they're given, like, it has to be, because studios will tell people that to be like, we want a 2-hour movie, or the time limit's going to be 2 hours and 10 minutes. So you have to live up to that. Whereas if you're able to just let the movie be what it is and then say, yeah, it ended on page 70. It's only a 70-minute movie. Like, that's how it should be. Like, you're forcing it and dragging things out otherwise.
Yeah, I wish we had more short movies here. I mean, this is a ridiculous example, but like, I enjoy some of those like 5-second films.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like some of those are done pretty well. Like sometimes I don't want to sit down. I mean, I know hour and a half's not necessarily a lot of time, but there's time. I just want to watch something for like an hour. I don't want to sit there for like hour 42 hours.
Yeah, I know, and especially when it's like like Lights Out, for example. If you look at that short film, Lights Out, it's only like a few minutes long, and they dragged it into a full-length movie. Now the movie still works. I do like the movie, and the movie did scare the shit out of me in a few scenes, but the short film pulls off what the 90-minute movie did in just like 5 minutes or less, or whatever, 7 minutes, whatever it is. So again, it's like yeah, you made it a movie, but a full-length movie, but not every story needs to be. Sometimes it's better to just be like, get in, get out, and be done with it.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think we're both interested to see where things go for Chris from here.
Yeah, I think that Chris Alexander's on a lot of good movies, and he's very active, and he's got such a positive attitude and such a knowledge of horror. I'm always looking forward to seeing what he puts his name on, man.
Yeah, like, was it Necropolis?
Yep.
That was a good one.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
And I think now we can move on to Burn and Learn, the segment of our show where Drew and I give you some behind-the-scenes facts of the movie we're talking about. And in this case, It Knows You're Alone.
Ooh.
Burn and learn.
The house used in the film was the same house used in the remake of Anne of Green Gables starring Martin Sheen.
It Knows You're Alone was shot in 3 days just outside of Toronto.
The opening theme music is by Jess Franco's frequent composer Daniel White and was used in the Franco film Emmanuel, Tender and Perverse.
The film's cinematographer was A.M. Frank, a pseudonym Jess Franco often employed. Chris Alexander in this case is A.M. Frank and shot the picture himself under the name as a tribute and to muddy the fact he was basically a one-man crew.
The dark lounge piece used during Natalie's undressing and the closing credits is by Piero Piccioni from the obscure Italian thriller An Open Tomb, An Empty Coffin.
Bee Dawley was once a newscaster on the notorious Naked News show about a decade ago, and yes, they really read the news fully unclothed.
The film was built around a real nearly 100-year-old Russian submarine sound phone Chris Alexander bought and loved. He thought it looked predatory and liked the idea of it being some sort of karmic portal to evil, madness, whatever it is.
This is the second time Chris Alexander has used the ship. The first was in Blood Dynasty. The ship was a real tall ship sailed to Ontario from Quebec by the owner with the intent to open it as a restaurant. The owner died suddenly and it left the boat mired in the muck. It stayed there for a decade as no one owned it. Then some assholes lit it on fire. Now it's a hazard rust, just monster overgrown with weeds. And the city's currently taking bids from interested parties to tow it away.
This is the first film Chris made for Full Moon under the Delirium Films imprint, a spin-off he created from the magazine he founded with producer Charlie Band.
The location and surrounding areas were also used in Chris's film Necropolis Legion. The intent was to create a kind of world where haunted things happen. He liked the idea of connecting his little movies by themes, locations, ideas.
Big thanks to our guest, Chris Alexander, for those facts. Those were given to us exclusively by him personally. You will not find those facts online. You will eventually, I'm sure, but rest assured you heard them here on High on Horror first. Now, let's talk to our first guest of the night, the man himself, Chris Alexander. Our guest today is a Canadian director, producer, writer, and composer. He is also known for his work as a film critic, journalist, and magazine editor. In fact, he was the third editor-in-chief of Fangoria magazine and the co-founder and editor of Delirium magazine. Recently, he wrote, directed, and composed the music for It Knows You're Alone, a short film available now to stream on Full Moon Features. Welcome, Chris. Thanks for being on High on Horror.
Well, thanks very much, guys. I really appreciate you taking the time for me.
No problem at all. We're glad to have you. It's cool to talk to you, man. We appreciate your work. I wanted to start off real quick. I want to ask you, all right, so what made you want to get involved in filmmaking, and who inspired you?
Well, I've loved movies, all films, all cinema since I have a memory, since I was a little boy. I had a lot of family members that were into films. My late father was pretty much a beacon when it came to like progressive rock and roll and psychedelic rock and film soundtracks and Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone was a huge part of my life. But I have an uncle. He's still with us. He's slow, but he was really almost savant-like into collecting Aurora model kits and monsters and comic books. And he loved horror and King Kong. And he had this museum. Everything was meticulously designed and placed in his room when I was little growing up. And it was this like shrine mecca to the macabre. And so that was a huge thing, just kind of like being scared but fascinated and just totally into this weird world that he kind of literally lived in because he was slow. So he was kind of I always kind of attributed him to being kind of later to like Frankenstein's monster. He was kind of this beautiful kind of misunderstood creature on the fringe who was just so into this stuff. Anyways, I digress. So that was kind of like my real entry point into being fascinated with weird shit. And Kiss too. That was a big deal. I was discovering Gene Simmons. I thought he was a real monster. And the cover of Love Gun in the library, I was like, what the fuck is this? Anyways, so it was all that shit in comic books. It's all different moving parts and pieces that kind of led me to where I would go. And then later on discovering Fangoria and actually seeing the wizard behind the curtain and how these incredible fantasies were actually made and constructed and all these players. And I just got really into not just wanting to watch movies, but know everything I could know about all these films. And again, I loved all cinema, but it was specifically horror, monsters, fantasy, dark science fiction, not Star Wars and shit. I would like the toys. I wasn't into that shit, but I liked like weird science fiction. Like heavy metal was a huge deal for me when I was a kid. I was like 6 or 7 and I was watching heavy metal. I shouldn't have been, but the R-rated animated with boobs and blood and all kinds of nasty things that weren't meant for children. But I was really into that. And stuff like Demon Seed and then 78 Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So anyways, all this shit happened. I knew I wanted to make movies. It wasn't an easy thing to do. Now it is. My 14-year-old son just won the George A. Romero Foundation short film thing for best cinematography for his little short film that he made.
That's awesome.
I know, but I mean, they can film all this stuff on their devices. That's amazing. But back then it was almost like Mission Impossible. And especially being in Toronto, there was no way you were going to be in that world. But through various serendipitous things and really just sticking close to loving this stuff, being in film school, dropping out of film school, starting a rock band and trying to find every entry point I could, and then finding it with journalism. It was first with the magazine called Rue Morgue, and then later on with Fangoria, and then taking over Fangoria, which was insane. Really having a front row seat into that world and getting to know everybody personally as well as professionally. Really enabled me to be able to eventually pursue that dream of actually bringing, not just writing about films, not just making the music for films that were in my head, which is what I was doing, but actually making my own kind of brand of cinema, which is an amalgam of all these different things that I liked.
Absolutely.
I have to go back. I'm a big fan of The Twilight Zone as well. What's your favorite episode from the original series?
It's hard to say. Rod Serling, I think, is the greatest moralist, the greatest writer in American history. I mean, I'd put him up there with Mark Twain. I mean, but so that first season, especially when he wrote almost all of them, and it really was his answer to CBS and all the sponsors that were always cutting his teleplays for dealing with too many different social issues. And he thought that he could use the horror and science fiction to sneak that in the back door. So that first season is just like firing on every known cylinder. It's hard to pinpoint one, but certainly episodes like The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street and The Lonely, specifically The Lonely. And I don't know why, but that episode with what's his face? Jack. Oh my God, I'm going to draw on a blank here. It's too late in Toronto. But Gene Marsh is the robot, the guys on the prison planet, and Ted Knight and the other guys, they drop off this robot to keep him company, and he ends up falling in love with this woman. There's his only company. And then at the end, they give him a pardon and they're going to rescue him, but he can only take a couple things. He's trying to bring his lover robot with him, but they're trying to tell him it's not real. It's just a fucking robot. And then they end up blowing its head off. And it's just like that really hit me. But it's hard to say. I mean, Walking Distance, that's another one that really moves me. And then later on when they got weirder, like To Serve Man. And it wasn't just to me, it was always, when I was a little, it was always the third act twists. You were looking for the most perverse twist. And then as I got older and you start living and losing and all those misfortunes that befall every person when they age, you start to appreciate some of the quieter moments of the Twilight Zone, like Walking Distance and things. And so, yeah, to me, every road leads back to the Twilight Zone, really.
I would have to say my favorite, it's been consistent now. It used to change, but I always like Obsolete Man with Burgess Meredith.
Yeah, Burgess Meredith was in so many. I mean, they were so good, but that one is a nightmare. That is a dystopian nightmare. That's a masterpiece.
That is a really good one.
Yeah, any of the Burgess Meredith ones are pretty much my favorites.
Yeah, even that fourth season where they flipped it to an hour and it didn't quite work. There's still a lot of gems in there. The one that he's in called Printer's Devil is especially good because of him. I mean, he was just such a great performer, and he really, I mean, for sure, some of the highlights of the show were definitely when Burgess Meredith would show up. Absolutely.
Yeah, and Rod Serling's little monologue at the end on totalitarian governments is great. And the other one I like, I can't remember the name of it. The guy works at the bank. He can hear people's thoughts, and he hears the guy. It's been there for like 15, 20 years. And he just always thinks every day, man, I could rob this bank and nobody would know. And he starts freaking out. Then at the end, he just tells him like, oh, that's my little dream each day.
Yeah, that's again. I can't forget. I forget the name. It's the one where he flips the coin into the box, and miraculously it ends up on the side, and then for 24 hours or whatever, he gets that gift. And that was Darren. The guy who played Darren on Bewitched, and I forget his name too. Yeah, and the old guy. Yeah, the old guy in that too. He was in a couple Zone episodes as well. He was in the one with them. Oh my God. It's honestly like my brain, I told you guys, I don't smoke weed or anything, but I feel like completely out of it right now. So, it's appropriate. I feel all hazy and delirious. It's wonderful, but I can't pick up these names. I forgot, but that one where the guy was in the Fugitive who played, the kind of guy trying to catch Kimball. The fuck was his name? Canadian actor. Anyways, he's got this, brings on this player piano, and it starts to kind of reveal truths about everybody at this party that he's throwing. He's a real piece of shit theater critic. And his butler is that same old guy from that episode with the coin. Anyways, we could go on all night. This is honestly the greatest show of all time. I mean, it's even the bad. I always say Twilight Zone's like sex from a male perspective, and this is such a misogynist thing to say, but there's no such thing as a bad Twilight Zone episode. Every episode is welcome and good. Yeah.
What did you have any horror movies or maybe a few that like really pulled you into the genre?
Yeah, well, I said it's 78's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I used to have when I was 4 years old, I had a comic book. That was I loved comics, of course. I loved all that shit and whatever I could get my hands on. That was garish and colorful and larger than life and even violent and monstrous. But there was one issue I have. I don't know what it was, but Batman was fighting a villain named the Blockbuster. And so this is 78. When you flipped it over, there was a poster for Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And if you know that film, the original teaser poster was as the beautiful 70s posters were. They were very impressionistic. And there were the four heroes running along and their shadows were underneath them. And it was like they were roots going into the ground. And I could read sort of, and I had to ask my dad, what is this? And he's telling me it's this new movie that's coming out. Can I see it? No, you cannot. Even though it was PG. PG back then was hell on earth. I mean,
Gremlins was PG, and that's not a PG movie.
Well, Gremlins is romper room compared to Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So
that's fair.
That's when they invented PG-13. But in the 70s, nobody gave a shit. There was a different world. The gates had opened up, and as long as you didn't have a lot of hardcore sex, horror movies were sneaking all kinds of wacky things into Jaws was PG, and Jaws is pretty intense, right? Even now. But anyways, there was so in 79, my parents went out to go see Apocalypse Now at the theater, and they stuck me with a babysitter, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers was on Toronto TV at its premiere. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like,
Apocalypse Now.
Like, I got to see this movie. And they told the babysitter, do not let him watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers. She's like, no problem. Anyway, she falls asleep, and I'm like, oh, I know exactly what channel this fucker's on. And I pressed right to that channel, right at the moment when Donald Sutherland was caving in his own duplicate's head with a garden hoe, and all that pussy blood is coming out of it. And there's that fetal monitor sound like, and I was just like, oh my God. And I scrambled to change the channel. But even then, just knowing that what I had seen, I couldn't unsee it. And knowing that movie was actually playing, even though I wasn't watching it, I changed the channel, knowing that it was happening in real time, understanding that it was being screened somewhere. Someone was watching it. I couldn't sleep. I was terrified. And that was a huge, huge deal for cementing my hardcore obsession with horror.
The ending of that movie is just fucking crazy.
The last shot?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy for a couple of reasons. If anyone's not seen it, it's a spoiler. Okay. Whatever. Donald Sutherland is a clone, and he turns around. He outs Veronica Cartwright and does that unholy, one of the scariest sounds in any cinema is that howl. But, what's really scary about that is that when it ends, it zooms into his mouth and it stops and it goes black and the credits roll, but there's no music and no sound at all. So the last thing you hear as you're exiting the theater or walking away from your television is nothing. It's just that howl, like reverberating in your head. And that's like Planet of the Apes too, at the end of the film, after damn you, it goes black and there's nothing. Just maybe like a little bit of the ocean a little bit for a while, but really, really terrifying.
The look on his face. It haunts you.
Yeah, he's got that Donald Sutherland had that great, especially then, that hound dog kind of hangdog face. So when his mouth's open, it almost looks like a cartoon.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So big and toothless, and yeah.
How does it feel for you now to be a part of the Full Moon brand?
Pretty cool, man. Because so when I was little and I was before the internet, I don't know what vintage you guys are. I don't know how old you are, but before the internet, if you were really wanting to know everything you needed to know about films, to me, my Bible was Leonard Maltin's movie and TV guide. And my mom would buy me a new one every year. And not that I would give a shit about reviews even then, but what I understood was that if a movie got 4 stars, it was going to be great. If it got 3 stars, it actually wasn't going to be that great. It was going to be kind of mediocre. If it had 2 stars, we're in better company. That means it's probably a fucking masterpiece, but Maltin and his cronies are too afraid to call it that. So they kind of give this half-hearted kind of recommendation. Or there's some offensive things in there that they, like Taxi Driver got 2 stars. Huh? And Don Juan DeMarco gets 3. It's like, what's going on here? But I always recognized that if Maltin gave a movie a bomb, if it was a horror movie, it was going to be great. So when I was little, I would circle in the TV guide what movies were like unsavory, according to Maltin, and I would stay up all night and make sure that I would watch these, And that's how I discovered Charlie Band. It was Parasite, a movie called Parasite from '82. It was shot in 3D, released in 3D, but pan and scan 2D when it was appeared on television and video. And yeah, movie fucking rocked me. Something about it was so weird. And especially when you're watching it at like 2 a.m, when you're not quite there anyways, those movies just really worked. And then later on, Reanimator, Tourist Trap. So I grew up on all that shit and I looked for Band's name. And then understanding that there was Charlie Band, Richard Band, who composed all the music. And sometimes his dad, Albert Band, would show up. And I was like, this is like a dynasty. This is amazing. So anyways, yeah, Charlie Band's been a part of my life since I was really little. And again, I never would have in a million years expected that. First, I developed kind of a friendship with Charlie. And then we started this magazine together, Delirium, because we had dinner together one night and we closed the restaurant, just kind of like talking about all the shit I knew about his family and his dad, his movies. And, and I was running Fango at the time. But I could feel like, I could feel the wheels starting to fall off with the publisher then. Everything was kind of not feeling great. It doesn't feel like a safe place to be when I had kids, and it's like, I don't know how long this is going to go. So I created Delirium to kind of phase out Fangoria, which I did fairly successfully. And then that moved me into Full Moon, and I've been there, ever since as a content developer. And, I license films for the channels, all the European stuff, all that shit is me like seeking all that weird stuff out and Blu-ray, DVD, and then writing and directing a bunch of stuff for Charlie too. So it's like a lot of things in my life. It's like all the cool stuff I liked when I was little and suddenly ended up paying my bills, and I'm still not kind of used to it. It still feels really weird and not of this earth.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And it's funny you talk about Leonard Maltin. I feel like for me, I had the same exact thing, but with like Roger Ebert. Like for normal movies, I could kind of see his star system, but yeah, like whenever I'd see his horror reviews, and if he gave it 2 or 1 star, I'm like, okay, I'm probably gonna like it.
Well, especially when you read Ebert's reviews, sometimes they were, praising a film, but there was just something that would take him out of it. And then he tried to, I was a film critic. I don't call myself a film critic anymore because I kind of realized that critics aren't really of great value, because especially the weird movies. I mean, critic can trip over their own nuts about something, but it won't really have an impact on its endurance or longevity. A movie can be a complete turkey and a bomb. 20 years later, it's hailed a masterpiece. So what's the value of a film critic? And I found out with me, and when I look back on some of those Ebert reviews, and a lot of times you're using the movie as kind of sport, just so you can prove your mettle as a writer and turn some phrases at the expense of a piece of art that has many moving parts and many different artists involved, and also one that may be embraced by an audience. And who cares what's one guy who saw it on, a press screening with a banquet set out by the studio and all this luxury flying around the world to junkets and stuff. Who cares what his opinion is on anything? It's what the people think, it's what the people care about. But that said, I mean, I kind of liked Ebert a lot, and I missed him. And I especially like as he got older, he seemed to really reevaluate a lot of stuff. He went back and said, okay, I didn't like this then, but I like it now. And plus he was a friend of the genre, even though he hated all the really, grindhousey exploitation shit. I mean, he loved Dawn of the Dead. I mean, it's my favorite movie of all time. And he was a huge champion of Dawn of the Dead. And he did write a couple Russ Meyer movies. He wrote them. I mean, so he was a friend of the genre to some degree. He just didn't like, the nastier, weirder, down market shit, which I love.
Yeah, I remember some of his comments saying that like horror films, like especially slashers, were misogynistic, and I know he definitely hated slashers. And a lot of it I feel like was also, like you said, pre-internet. I just want to find out about movies. I just want necessarily not his review, but what he's telling me the movie's about. I'm like, okay, well now I want to see that regardless of his review.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why if you're a horror fan, you sometimes do look for those outrageously bad reviews, because all the things that you're looking for in the entertainment, in the film, are the things that are repelling the average Joe. So you're kind of like, wow, okay, so this sounds like you're daring me to watch this fucking movie. And I'm in, because that's what this love is all about, is kind of like pushing your boundaries, right? So yeah, every time these guys, I remember like Malton too, reviewing Life Force, the Toby Hooper movie, and ripping it apart and saying like it starts off like a space movie, and then it becomes like a fucking vampire movie, and then it becomes like a sex movie, and then it's like a zombie movie, and then it becomes an end of the world saga. It doesn't know what it wants to be. And I'm like, I know what I want to do. I want to be watching this movie now. Like, this is like literally, you've just said like in 2 hours I can watch every movie I want to watch all in one shot. I'm in. And I love Life Force. Oh my God, he was like out to lunch with that thing. The movie is perfect. Jesus.
And now, like you said, you don't smoke, but with Full Moon, you have movies like Evil Bong and Halloween. Does that make you feel like an outsider?
No, but no, it doesn't, because Charlie's a genius. He really is. And what he's not, I'm not, when I say a genius, I don't mean he's a Rhodes Scholar. He's lived a lot of lives, and he's a very smart guy. And he knows what sells, and he has a weird sense of humor. He genuinely does. Sometimes to his detriment, I would say that, is that sometimes he's got too out there senses of humor. I don't think some people understand that he's in on the joke with a lot of his shit. They just think he makes bad movies, and he just thinks they're funny, and he wants people to have a good time. So he actually doesn't smoke either at all, but he loves all that shit. And he loves, merchandising that shit and having fun with that shit. And he makes sure that the writers behind them smoke, but he actually doesn't at all. But do I feel like an outsider? No, because, I don't murder people either, but I like, slasher movies. But I can appreciate that stuff. And again, mainly because I'm part of the mechanism of it. And, he said this to me once. I think it was after he directed Evil Bong, was it 666 or maybe the one before that? I don't know. Fuck, they all bleed into one for me. I don't know. But it was one of them, and it was just such an out there movie. And I'm watching this going, I don't even really like this shit. But there's an energy here. There's weird stuff happening. There's like all these things that exist only in Charlie's world, in Charlie's mind. And he very straight faced said, this is like, kind of my Fellini movie. This is my 8.5. And he wasn't joking. He really does have this kind of vibe. If 8.5, like every character shows up at the end. It's almost like a carnival, a circus. And in his mind, he's P.T. Barnum. He's kind of bringing all his friends together and all these weird puppets and weird fucking things. And he's throwing them all into the mix and just whipping them all around. And that's what he's doing in his mind. So would I like the movies if I wasn't involved with them? Not as much as I do knowing the whole mechanisms behind them and what goes on in Charlie's mind. So no, I don't feel like an outsider at all. They are what they are. They're and then they last. That's all that matters. People love them or don't. That doesn't matter what I think about. I mean, yeah. No, I don't feel like an outsider at all. Not at all. I get a front row seat in Charlie's circus. It's a blast. Every day is a blast.
I was going to say, would you ever direct like one of those silly stoner movies if it was offered to you?
I always come up with that. I always think about that. I'm in a unique position with Charlie now where I've kind of said, look, just give me a little bit of money and every time, and I'll just keep spitting you back a movie. And he knows what I like, and that's Jess Franco and John Roland and all that shit. And I discovered Jess Franco through his Wizard Video stuff in the early 80s. He was the first guy to kind of import that shit to video. And so he knows I like that weird. Do what I want. Now, if he offered me one of those Evil Bong movies, well, I wouldn't say no, but the problem is he knows he wouldn't, because he would know I would take it and turn it into something totally different. Radically different. There would be lesbian vampire. And to me, that would be great. It sounds great to me. But it would be, yeah, I know it would be like, against the grain of what he would want. But I'm not counting it out. I mean, we have a studio now in Cleveland, and it's he bought a big old mansion there. It's called the Full Moon Manor. So there's actually we shot Baby Oopsie there, and this horny movie that Charlie just directed where this girl bangs a ghost. and and couple other things, and now Billy Butler's over there making the sequels to the Resonator, the Miskatonic U movies, and so we're going into overdrive. I just directed another one for Charlie, Scream of the Blind Dead, and we're just powering through all these movies. So and Cleveland's like 4 hours away from me, so I'm. We keep it all pretty tight. Everyone kind of close to the belt. We just hired Jim Wynorski to come on board and direct a bunch of shit, and so I wouldn't be surprised if I get the call to direct one of these things, and I'll totally do it. It's fun. I have no pretense that if I at the end of it I don't like what happens to it, I might stick a pseudonym on it or something, but I'll still do it.
Well, I gotta say, you mentioned Baby Oopsie, and I loved Baby Oopsie Chapter 1 and 2. Did you watch it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think Billy is a super talented guy. I mean, and he knocked this out of the park. Billy Butler, the actor, and the director and writer, and he hates like killer doll movies and shit. He doesn't like all that shit at all. And Charlie's like, look, I want you to direct this movie. And he's like, well, if I do it, I got to do it my way. And that is, I don't want to hire a bunch of 18-year-old porn stars and do all. I want to hire Libby Higgins, and I want to hire big fat people, and really just make it about an outsider and do my own thing. And he did, and I think it's it's one of the best movies we've done in a long time. I think it's I agree. It's solid fun, and it's got a weird sense of humor, and everyone's having a good time. I think Libby's great in it. And it feels like Billy gets mad when people say this, but it does feel kind of like John Waters took on a Full Moon movie. It has that kind of vibe.
I could totally see that.
He's like, I don't get it. He's like, why do people say John Waters? Because there's fat people in it? I'm like, no, it's not just that. It's just got a weird kind of bent sensibility. It's blackly comic, and and also because there's fat people in it. I mean, yes, I mean that's true. I mean, Libby looks like she would, and Justin Erickson, they look like they could fit comfortably in a early period Waters film. So, I thought it was great. It was really great, and he's going to be making a couple more of those too.
Yeah, I know. Actually, we have him scheduled for January or February of next year. He wants to wait till the next 2 chapters of Baby Oopsie are done before he wants to talk to us. So we're going to have him on too. So we're looking forward to that.
He is a treasure. I really mean it. He's one of the funniest, most honest, genuine guys. I don't know. I just like Billy's. I like multi-hyphenates, and Billy's one of those guys that's been around since Christ was a carpenter. He started in the early 80s with Charlie. He's done special effects. He's acted. He's the guy's worn so many hats, and he doesn't have an ego. A lot of guys they would have this big ego, and he doesn't. He's just he's a blue collar kind of guy. I really, really, really dig Billy.
I really I liked the Conjuring remark in Baby Oopsie. I liked when Baby Oopsie's walking around and finds the Annabelle doll, and she's like, huh? Wait, there's a new sheriff in town. Conjure this, Missy, and punches. That cracked me up.
It's an obvious but great moment, and I loved it because it's not only just a fun middle finger flip to all that shit, but those Annabelle movies, they take themselves so seriously, and they're so boring. They're so formula, and And this was a fun way to remind people that, hey, we're just making a movie about a fucking toy that's running around cutting people up here. You know, we can have a little bit of fun with this shit. You know, so serious. I mean, those Conjuring movies are just, to me, like, well, the first one's okay, but I mean, I just watched the last one recently, and it was just, oh my Christ. I watched 20 Evil Bong movies before I'd ever watch that thing again. Oh my God, that was like watching the paint dry. It was horrible, lifeless, hideous movie. And those, this is another topic entirely. I can't even deifying those Warrens. I mean, they were pretty horrible people in real life. Anyways, whatever. I digress. Yes, Baby Oopsie is I think a really successful, and I thought Miskatonic U was really good too. And I think Billy brings a lot to the company for sure.
Well, before we move on, I guess since we're on the topic of Full Moon, let's end it on a proper note. I have to ask you, you know, obviously you know the shit out of horror. You have an enormous horror knowledge. What's your favorite Full Moon movie? I'm going to tell you mine, Castle Freak. And then, John, I want you to tell us yours as well.
I mean, it's the easy answer, but Puppet Master.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, if I want to look at, you know, we sometimes call every Full Moon #1 is considered to be Mansion of the Doomed, even though it's not a Full Moon movie, but in our catalog, it's #1. So when we're talking Full Moon, are we including Empire Pictures in there and the early stuff like Mansion and Tourist Trap? No, we're talking, you want to talk purely Full Moon, right? From 1991. Correct. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I mean, those first couple of years when Charlie had a lot of money and he was shooting in his castle, and I mean, those were all pretty fucking dynamite. It's a hard one. I mean, Castle Freak is perfect. Any of the Stuart Gord stuff is great. Pit the Pendulum's great. Yeah, Ted stuff's great. So Subspecies is fun. But I'm partial to, and I'm not saying it's the best of the lot, but I'm partial to Meridian because I love Sherilyn Fenn, and if you love Sherilyn Fenn, and especially if you love her in that period of time, and you enjoy seeing her without clothes making love to like a werewolf, I mean, yeah, I mean that's in a castle. I mean that's pretty fucking great. I like all that heaving bosom gothic romance shit. So Meridian's pretty high on the list, but yeah, the Stuart Gordon stuff is kind of its own pedigree. I mean, Stuart's one of the great directors of all time. So yeah, the Castle Freak's great. And that remake of Castle Freak, unfortunately, I didn't think was very good. You just kind of felt like everything, all the class and elegance Stuart could effortlessly bring to trash movies. These guys had no fucking clue.
Agreed. It was a big disappointment.
Yeah, really sad, and especially with the pedigree. I mean, you know, I say Barbara Crampton produced it. I don't think she really had much to do with it. It was more just sticking her name on it. But you know, you got Fabio Frizzi doing the music, and didn't quite register in the mix, and weird angles too. I got to say, there's one sex scene in that movie, and it's like the camera was focused right on the guy's taint, and I was like, what? It was just like my girlfriend and I were watching it. We just said, like, what? Who let that hit? How did that not get cut? It's just like a dude's taint. I don't know. It was a really weird, and it went on for so long. It was just an ugly sex scene. It was really unattractive. Anyways, it's things like that. Like Stuart can make sex look so fun and gross and cool, but also like, you know, I mean, Reanimator should be like super offensive, but there's just it's fun, you know.
It's done right.
Yeah, he gets the vibe, and I thought Castle Freak was just kind of smarmy and ugly and kind of dumb. Not his Castle Freak, the new Castle Freak,
right?
Which, by the way, Charlie had nothing to do with, and even though he's listed as executive producer, neither that or Puppet Master remake he had anything creative to do with at all, except for licensing the properties. That's all.
Well, at least they kept his name on it. I mean, rightfully so.
Yeah, he got a bit of a paycheck for it, which is important. But you know, those are not pictures that he wants to be very, very clear that he had nothing to do with them.
I don't blame him. Okay, so let's move on to talking about you. You're a very talented composer, and you compose music for Necropolis, Legion, Blood for Arena, and Queen of Blood, and Female Werewolf, and a lot more. What do you enjoy more about movie making, composing or directing?
Well, because, when I was in film school, we only had 16 millimeter and it was very expensive. So you'd spend $30 to shoot a 2-minute roll of film and then $30 to develop that 2-minute roll of film. And you'd only use about 10 seconds of it. And back in that when I was in film school, just the idea of making independent film was daunting. And when you dropped out, you didn't even have those resources, which I did. And so I wanted to make movies, but I couldn't. But I was a musician, and my dad taught me guitar, and I was always creating sound and music. And then I had access to the sound studio at the school. And I just started creating music with tape loops and doing weird experimental things. And I'd seen a movie called The Shout with John Hurt and Alan Bates, where he can kill people by screaming. And John Hurt is an experimental music composer in that movie. It's a really hard movie to find, I think, from 1978. It's called The Shout. It's really fucking good. But there's a whole scene where Hurt is making this experimental music with tape machines and doing all this sound and weird scrapes, like post-industrial kind of shit, but actually proto-industrial because it was before industrial music. And I thought, this is fucking cool. So I started making music for movies in my head because it was cheap. And then I started performing that stuff as kind of a living film on stages and touring it around. And because that's the closest thing I could get to actually making movies. So the line between film and music has, to me, been always kind of indivisible. I think it's all the liberal arts are kind of connected. So when I started making movies, the way I was rocking it is I would make the soundtracks first. I would find a location. I would come up with a basic storyline. And are you guys still there?
Yeah, yep. We're still here.
Okay,
yep.
It was so unearthly quiet there for a minute that I thought, oh no, my fucking internet, I've lost it. So I started making the soundtracks first. So I would create the sounds and everything, and then I would flesh out the how I was going to shoot that, how it's going to feel. I wanted to know, like, how's this movie going to feel? And right. So that's it. Most of those early films, that's what I did. That's 100% what I did. So I they're all kind of part of, and that's all my movies I've done. I've never brought in an outside composer except for Necropolis Legion, which Richard Band, fucking did the main music for that. But even that was, I created the temp score first. And then, right. And then when Charlie said, look, Ricky can do the score. I'm like, fuck Richard. Yes. Oh my God, this is insane. So I just brought the music to Richard, and him and I just collaborated. And he used a lot of my music to build on and create the themes. And then a lot of my music ended up being woven into the film, and he just built on it with like strings and stuff. And my guitar stuff it's all mine. So it was a collaboration. But outside of that, I don't, it's always my own music. And It Knows You're Alone, pardon me, has a couple licensed film tracks from other composers that were put in there because the film is a very deliberate nod to Franco and some key kind of European vibe films. But no, and mostly, yeah, I do the music first. But in the case of It Knows You're Alone, I did that. And then I was like, well, I don't really like the music doesn't feel organic. So then I just went back and just kind of created a fresh score for it when it was cut. But no, mostly I do the music first.
I do appreciate your music, and I like your directing style as well, and that's why we asked you on. It's just like John Carpenter. I always like when a director or anybody in movies is good at more than one thing. And like when you're like, hey, I know that dude's music, and it's like you don't have to be the name above the title picture to be recognized in a movie, and you also don't have to be an actor. And I appreciate that, and that's why like composers and makeup effects people, like that's the type of stuff that gets our blood pumping. We love the industry, and we love people that are like talented and multifaceted in the genre.
Yeah, so do I. Carpenter is a huge influence on so many levels, but I always loved the fact that you could just tell his movies a mile away just from how they sounded, as well as the motifs and how they looked. Especially all those Dean Cundey shot ones. There was a real identity to them. But no, the music's great. But also, I'm a huge European horror movie fan. So Dario Argento, and knowing that that sound, like the Goblin stuff or the Morricone stuff in the early ones, and the Simonetti. It was a sound to that stuff, right? Where you could just
absolutely.
It drove the images. These were rock videos before they were rock videos in many respects, and I loved the fact that the back in this, but the Europeans, so it was always that the the director was even if they didn't compose the music themselves, they were so deeply involved in the scoring. Like speaking of Morricone, like Sergio Leone would work with Morricone from the script stage up, so that the music he was creating was like simpatico with what Leone was directing, and so they just worked well together. It wasn't just like some Joe Hack came in at the end of the film and just threw a bunch of crap on it and walked away.
Right.
The music was a part of as a character in the film completely. Hitchcock did that too with Bernard Herrmann. Anytime you see that, I'm not putting myself anywhere near in the league of any of those guys, but the sensibility is the same, except the fact that I can do it myself, and also I'm a bit of a control freak, so that I can handle it all myself on my end and make sure that whether the film works or doesn't work, whether people like it or don't, it's 100% mine across the board. And there's a great feeling of accomplishment just personally for that. Like I've created a nice little piece of art. But this is just music and movies together when they're married right is just something I'm really interested in too.
Yeah, like you said, instead of people, coming in after the point and throwing on music, it's always great when someone, even not if it's the person making the movie, but someone who just like knows the material well is making the music to be part of the movie's DNA instead of making music to try to get reactions.
Yeah. And there's also, a bad score too. I'll use in the context of horror. I mean, there's a lot of movies I like, and then the score is just destroyed. Like Creepshow 2, for instance, which is not a great movie, but it's not bad. I mean, it's pretty good, but that score is just vile. It's vulgar. It's the laziest, most wankiest, useless music, and it really deep sixes a lot of anything that Michael Gornick was trying to build with that movie. And really kind of bugs my ass. But by the same token, you get stuff like Hellraiser 2 or something, where the Christopher Young score just brings that movie, which isn't particularly a successful film on some levels visually, yes, but that music just brings it all to life. And I say giallo films, like even John Carpenter. I mean, what's Halloween really? If you really watch Halloween and take the sound off, it's just a bunch of people walking around most of the time and not a lot's happening, but it's that music where every second of it feels like it's alive and dangerous. And that's all. Right? That's all John Carpenter's music. That's all him doing that.
Yeah, I agree. He hasn't, in my opinion, John Carpenter hasn't scored anything that's bad. I like all of his music. He's a master.
Me too. I mean, I put I always loved Ghosts of Mars. Nobody does. So the last issue of Delirium, I'm like, fuck it. So I called John up. I said, this is what we're doing. I didn't even realize it was the 20th anniversary, but I'm like, let's do it. So I put Ghosts of Mars on the cover, and everyone's talking about Halloween Kills. I'm like, no, we're going to do Ghosts of Mars. And so we blew that out there. And, part of the reason I love Ghosts so much is, well, A, it's just out of control, but B, that soundtrack is just bananas. I mean, it's Carpenter just decided to become a heavy metal guy and just bring in on Anthrax and Buckethead and all these guys. And just, it doesn't even make sense, that soundtrack, but it's so good.
I agree. I'm not a fan of the movie, I'll be honest, but I do like the soundtrack, so we'll agree on that.
I don't know when the last time you saw it. Ghost of Mars is something that I think you just got to keep sticking your finger in the socket until you like the feeling of being shocked, because it's just I love them. It's the one I keep going back to over and over. And I'll admittedly, while I'm watching it, sometimes I'm like, this isn't really working. And then it's over. I'm like, I love that movie. Like, it's a really strange relationship I have with Ghost of Mars, but yeah, I'm like kind of addicted to it. It's weird.
All right, well, let's get to the reason why you're here finally. Let's talk about It Knows You're Alone. All right, so John and I, are fans of it. We watched it. I watched it twice. It's such a unique short film. It's definitely nothing like what I expected or what I would have expected, especially from Full Moon. And that's something, again, that you had brought up earlier about how you do things differently. It wasn't just like dumb people, like dumb characters, like witty, and on purpose. I mean, like witty bimbos and like stoner jokes. Was a very more serious in tone. And you said that the idea came from this Russian submarine phone that you bought. So, like, how long ago was that? Like, is this idea for this movie, was this something new and the phone was new? Or is this something that you've had, like, on your mind, or something you've owned for a while and wanted to tell the story for a while?
Well, all my movies kind of have the same vibe. It's like they're always almost female based, and that's not. I'm not trying to make any kind of political statement. I find it's kind of a heady kind of thing going on there where I find just women. I love De Palma. Loves shooting women. I really do. But also, there's a movie called The Duke of Burgundy by Peter Strickland's Duke of Burgundy, and it takes place in a world. Sorry, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know if I lost you. No, there's a movie called The Duke of Burgundy, and there's no men in it at all. It's just women. So I like the idea of it's not. Some people are like, It Knows You're Alone. Yeah, it's a queer positive movie, and I'm like, it's not. I mean, there's just no men in it.
Right.
And how many guys come up to me and they say, I want to be in one of your movies? I'm like, well, it's not. The only problem is you have a penis. This is the issue, because I only put women in it. So. Yeah, so I don't know. That's kind of digressing about the germ of the idea, but basically we own our own channels. Full Moon has Full Moon Features. We have Full Moon Amazon channel, and so because of that, we're in a unique position where Charlie owns his entire library, so he can repurpose it. But half the movies at Full Moon Features aren't even Full Moon movies. We're licensing movies, and a lot of them have never been released before. Some older films, weird European shit. We're digging through the vaults in Italy and Germany and finding cool stuff that people haven't seen for a while or ever in some cases. But bottom line is spending a lot of money on licensing these things. And I came to Charlie. I said, look, we have this magazine. I'm running this magazine. Why don't we create Delirium Films, a new imprint? It'll just be kind of like a wide open canvas where we can start doing things that are low risk. And instead of licensing movies that exist, we'll create our own movies that we own. And we can take a few more risks and kind of bring on the different directors to experiment more and create kind of like little auteur movies. And he's like, let's do it. Fucking go. The way is with Charlie. If he likes the idea, he's greenlit immediately. Isn't him and Han he probably should, but he doesn't. He just jumps in. And so he said, just give me a few ideas. And I blasted out a couple ideas to him. He said, all right, he just literally pinned the tail to the donkey and said, okay, It Knows You're Alone. Let's do that. Originally it was called Cries in the Night, but that was a pretty generic name. That's the alternative name to a Canadian movie called Funeral Home. And I always like Cries in the Night as the name. It's pretty basic, but it became It Knows You're Alone very quickly after that. It sounded a little more ominous, but the idea was, originally I had the outline because I had bought this Russian submarine phone. It literally is a sound phone that was ripped from the base of, the bowels of an old Russian World War II submarine. And it's this big, evil-looking metal contraption. I mean, it's just perverse. There's nothing like it that exists in the contemporary world, and it was heavy as fuck. And it's interesting. I just thought, well, this would be just a neat. And then there's this shipwreck around me too. This guy from Quebec had sailed this ship into like this little harbor out in near the border of Buffalo and Niagara Falls, and it was like basically crashed into the reef. And he was going to open it as a restaurant. Then he died, and someone lit it on fire, and it's been sitting there like a ghost.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, so I got this phone, I got this boat, and I got a couple ladies here, and I got this house, I'm friends with these people that own this set that was used for like Anne of Green Gables and shit. And so I kind of came up with this cool, isolated little movie about this woman who's basically either insane or legitimately, channeling some sort of weird erotic energy from this phone, this thing that she lets into her life. And, subconsciously too, not to get too like pinkies up with it all, but I made this, during lockdowns and shit. Like I made 3 movies during COVID lockdowns in Toronto. Damn. And each one's more isolated than the last, and for various reasons. A, because I couldn't really bring a lot of people on, and B, because it was kind of just what was on your mind. And so in many ways, It Knows You're Alone, whether consciously or subconsciously, is also kind of answering to the kind of weird, isolated vibe of the way I was living and people were living at the time. I guess, I don't know. So there were all these things kind of swirling around, but the money was there, gave it to me, and we just jumped right in and made this crazy movie. And literally there was like 3 or 4 of us making it. And shot in 3 days. Crazy.
Yeah, definitely. And I got a question. I got to say that although the creature on the poster isn't in the movie, I think the poster is cool as shit. It's sexy and creepy. Well, what's up with the creature on the poster? Was that something that was done before the film was made?
No, no, it's not. That's just, the typical exploitation movie producer's role is to make the poster look fucking bad shit. And then you're watching, you're like, well, it's not quite bad. It's not quite the poster. But then the poster becomes part of the film's identity. And it just makes it part of the coolness of the whole product, I mean, back in the old American International Pictures days, and in the Empire Pictures days too, with Charlie, I mean, and a lot of different exploitation filmmakers, they would create the poster first and a title, and then bring people on and say, okay, now make this a movie. And, of course, you could never live up to the insanity of the poster. Yeah, the creature, you never see the creature's face. I mean, that's the whole point, is that, because she is the creature, so she becomes, it kind of like blankly absorbs her until you don't know where you are it doesn't make any sense. It really is just genuinely a Night Gallery episode, jacked up with a lot of Jess Franco jizz. Really, and it doesn't have to make sense. I'm a firm believer in that horror movies don't have to make any kind of linear, legitimate sense. In fact, I like them better when they don't, because you keep wanting to revisit and trying to figure it out. When there's too much exposition and everything's spelled out for you, there's really no need to dive back in. But you become the movies that I become obsessed with. Again, I like all movies, right? But the ones I become really obsessed with are the ones that don't play their hand, and I got to keep going back and figuring out what's going on in them, So, the creature, the creature. If I could, I don't even think if I could, even if I did have the budget to realize some sort of ghoulish. Actually, you know what it was? I'll tell you what it was. Why that creature looks like that? Because originally when I came up with these concepts for Delirium Films movies, I gave them all to a poster artist. And one of them, and I did it. I just finished it. I'm in post on it now. Screams of the Blind Dead, which is literally my version. It's like a cross between A Knows You're Alone and a Mondo de Sorio's Tombs of the Blind Dead. The Blind Dead guy was on the front, and I gave him example. I said, now create me a piece of concept art like this. But he kind of crossed his wires, and he had the description of It Knows You're Alone. He kind of put the Templar skeletal face on that thing. And so Charlie loved that concept art so much that when we came down to do the final poster art, he got Ryan Brookhart at the studio to kind of riff on, take the elements from the actual movie. And I took a photo of the girls together, and then he put the skull face, kind of massaged it back in there. So yeah, it kind of happened by accident, but now I actually did make a Blind Dead movie, and so it's all kind of worked out.
No, like I said, I love the poster. I think the poster is just awesome looking, and that's when I was on the Full Moon Features app, that the poster is what stands out about it. And although I love the poster, I'm going to make an honest statement here. Trust us, we're not upset that the creature's not in the movie. It's okay that you gave Bee Dawley 2 roles. We'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, it is Bee Dawley, but it's also Ali Chaplin, the creature's outfit too, right? I mean, that's her. And then she's got the blank face, but then at the end, Bee's got a double shot of the role. And the creature has no face. I mean, when she's going down on Bee in that one scene, she pulls the hood up, and it's just like this, gelatinous skin that's there. Yeah, but which I think is cooler. You don't necessarily want this big skull face. I mean, actually, you do. What am I talking about? If this was like an old Amicus movie and the skull face, I'd be like big boner watching that. So that's for another. That's for another movie. Well,
you were very much a one-man crew. Like you said, you did this during COVID. It was like 4 people on the whole production. You even did the cinematography. So let me ask you, what challenges did you have pretty much being a one-man show?
I'm always kind of a one-man show. That's the thing, is that I've shot most of the first couple of movies. I had another guy around with me, but then very quickly I kind of took it over. I got very impatient with trying to tell somebody how to shoot something, and I'd just jump in and shoot. And sometimes that even meant picking up my iPhone and taking the shot I wanted to take, and then realizing that, with the right filter, the iPhone footage matched perfectly with the other footage. And it was like, fuck it, fine. And to the point where I made Female Werewolf, and I had 5 iPhones, and I shot the entire thing on 5 different iPhones because I had complete control of all of them. Yeah, the entire movie, not one, that was before like Steven Soderbergh's movie where they made a big deal. They shot it with an iPhone. It's like, okay, well, whatever. Yeah, I'm not Steven Soderbergh, so I get it. But it's fine. I like being in total control because I know exactly what I want. I know how it has to sound, how it has to look. And when you're in the low budget world and you have no time, you don't have the luxury of trying to work with a lot of people, because you can't, but also because it's another step that sometimes if you can skip it, it works in your favor because you can get the job done much faster. So in Necropolis Legion, we had cinematographers, and to be totally honest, although that's the biggest budgeted thing I've done, or maybe the most accessible, a lot of those shots, and it's no fault of the cinematographers. It's just a matter of maybe it's my fault. It's the fact that I didn't communicate enough, or we didn't have enough time to properly communicate or stage the stuff I wanted to shoot and get the right angles. But in the case of It Knows You're Alone, the difficulties are huge because I'm running around with literally like Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins. I've got lighting things sticking out of my pants. No joke. And I've got cameras down by my feet and this, that, and I'm just doing setup upon setup upon setup. It's just going crazy. Like, there's packed days just running around, but I'm getting everything I want. There's no wasted shots. There's no nothing. I mean, I'm basically getting every single thing, and I plan it out so meticulously that I'm just diving in and getting exactly what needs to be got. And it's a necessity being the mother of invention in the world of low budgets, and I'm glad I can do that.
Yeah, I guess that's the trade-off. You get to be in complete control, but you also have to deal with all the struggles. But then again, it's your work at the end of the day and not someone else's.
Yeah. There's a lot of struggles. And every time I do it, like I remember coming home after driving home at like 11 o'clock at night after day 2 of that thing. I'm like, fuck it. I'm never going to make another one of these fucking turn and burn movies. I'm never doing it again. Fuck it. I'm never doing this. Is just like, forget it. I'm like, what am I doing? And then you make the movie and you're like, wow, this little picture has actually got some legs. I really like it. It's got a great vibe. And a couple people are like, hey, I really like this movie. And you're like, oh, okay. All right. Suddenly, next thing you know, it's like 3 weeks later and you're doing another one. You're like, okay. And I am. And so I'm finishing post for Screams of the Blind Dead. And then I'm jumping into another goddamn one. A weird riff on the 1974 British Spanish movie Vampires called Flesh for Christina in a few weeks. And it's another one of these nickel and dimer small little movies where I'm going to be doing everything.
That sounds awesome. Will there be a physical copy at some point of It Knows You're Alone? Because I'm a big physical media collector. Like I have over like 2,000 Blu-rays and DVDs, and that's not including my VHS collection. So whenever I like a movie, I want to own it. I like digital. I trust digital, but my subscription can't get canceled to my Blu-ray collection, and it's like I like to own it. And so that's always a question I have is like, when can I own it?
I don't trust digital, and I subscribe to every known channel, and it's great as a convenience to have it. But if it's a movie, I always almost consider the digital as testing ground for if I really want to invest in the picture. And I'm a collector too. Although I don't collect Blu-rays as much anymore. I collect film prints now. I mean, trust me, it's way more expensive, and it's like, oh my God, what am I doing? And it takes up all the space in my house. But anyways, I digress. Yes, we will be having a release of this at some point. I just don't know when. We've got a bunch of movies coming out. Catalog titles, new titles, and I think the pattern with us with Full Moon is usually we release a Full Moon features. There's a window for about a week, and then we put it on Amazon, and then we let it run on Amazon for a bit, and then we block it out to Tubi and some of the other channels, and then we let that run for a couple weeks on Tubi or whatever, and then we pop out the release after that. So I'd say probably comfortably we're looking at like maybe January. Something like that to see the Blu-ray of this. So it's definitely coming.
Excellent.
And in your own words, why do you think people should watch It Knows You're Alone?
You know what? I watched it again. You make these things and you don't even want to ever see them again. And a lot of my stuff's I like slow shots, but this is what happens when you love European stuff. One of your favorite movies is Death in Venice, which is like the most inaccessible. I like boring movies. I can't, purposely, I say boring with my tongue in cheek. I'd like immersive movies that take their time and are patient, And so a lot of my movies are like that, and they can be very divisive, especially with horror fans just looking for a quick fix. But what I like about It Knows You're Alone is I think it's slow burning enough in that it does immerse itself, take its time. I think it's very economically populated and produced. And I think it's, with its short running time, I think it's paced very well. And I think it's just an enjoyable little low budget horror shock psychodrama. Plus, I think Bee's really good in it. I think Allie's really good in it. I think it has a good kind of vibe. I think the music's good. Mine and the Daniel White music from Jess Franco's library, and the Piero Piccioni music. I think it sounds good, looks good, feels good. I think it's fucking weird. Just weird enough that it gives you a little bit of a buzz. And I think it's paced really well. So it kind of goes down easy. It's a nice little nugget. And if you're a fan of the European stuff, which is a little bit more weirder and gauzier and dreamier, then I think you're going to respond pretty okay to this little movie. So it's a nice, respectable little piece of shit.
Well said. And I have to say, we had Jennifer Reeder on, and we've talked about short films, and I just feel like they're not utilized. I mean, I agree with her that they're not utilized enough here. Sometimes you don't need a movie. It runs an hour and a half. It's fine being an hour or a little less. You don't have to stretch it out.
Well, I agree with that. To me, it's like, I look at some of my favorite films from like the early 30s. A lot of times those movies barely scraped an hour. And to me, they did exactly what they did. It was their mission statement, just to come in there, especially the second run, like the Bee stuff. I mean, they don't have to be long to say what they're going to say, and then get the fuck out. And I really appreciate that, especially with a film like this. This is a very intimate, small story. It's not plot driven. It's more like emotion and mood and texture. So too much of that takes you out of it. I think this one is just got enough. And technically a feature is considered in the festival world and whatnot 45 minutes. So as long as you've hit 45 minutes, you're kind of straddling the line. You're not quite a short and you're not quite a feature, but technically I guess you are a feature. So it runs good. And especially, people looking for a quick fix while they're streaming, they're trying to watch something fun and easy to go down. Why give them too much? Just give them enough, give them a little taste so that maybe they want a little more. And that's kind of what we're doing with these little delirium films movies we're making, is just quick blasts of weird shit that people are going to watch and absorb and enjoy, and then hopefully come back for more.
It's like it's like a episode that could fit in season 4 of the Twilight Zone.
That's 100% is exactly what that model was, and bang on, thank God, because that's exactly what I was thinking putting these together. But the problem with a lot of those season 4s is that they couldn't find their footing enough. They, instead of sticking with expanding the 3 acts of the half an hour shows, they were aiming for something a little deeper, but they were too ambitious with it. So a lot of those movies couldn't quite. The Twilight Zone episodes in season 4 couldn't quite find what they wanted to be, because they were that running time didn't work. But the ones that did worked really fucking well, like Miniature and stuff like that. That I thought were these perfectly realized little episodes. So yeah, that was my model for sure, was to kind of build on the vibe of what Serling did with season 4 when it worked.
Yeah, it definitely pays off. And what projects do you have coming up?
Yeah, so I got the Scream of the Blind Dead, which I'm really digging. I'm still in the edit, but I like this movie. I think it's got a good vibe to it. It's really good atmosphere and cool costume too. So if you like the Blind Dead stuff, and all my movies are kind of remakes of Tombs of the Blind Dead in a weird way, even though all the female vampires, they move kind of in the same weird way. But this is like literally a Templar Knight kind of creature. So, and it looks cool. So I'm just finishing that and then starting another one for a company called Dark Side Releasing, not Full Moon. Same company that produced my movie Girl with a Straight Razor, which is also coming out to Blu-ray and DVD in November this month. And so there's a lot of things going on. And I'm working on a Roger Corman book, which should have had finished 2 months ago, but then I got busy with all these dumb movies. And hopefully it'll be done in a few weeks. And it's coming out from a British publisher next year. And what it is basically 10 years of me interviewing Roger about his Poe films. And so it's like this like the ultimate Roger Corman. If you're a fan of those movies, this is the ultimate dissection of them with Corman himself. So
That is badass.
yeah, so it's pretty cool. And my goal is, Roger's 95 and he's still doing great. And I got to finish this thing while he's still on the good side of the earth because I want him to see it. So hopefully I'll have that done as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to checking that out.
Thanks. Yeah, me too.
And where can people keep up with you online with your various projects?
Well, just my there's so many things. So the film and the music will be at chrisalexanderonline.com. So you can figure out what's going on with me in that respect. And then it links to my store if you want to catch up on some of the older titles. I have stock of most of my stuff on there. Some of it's not around anymore, but there's enough of it's there that you can get a taste, and records and all that shit, movies, Blu-rays. And I have a film blog that I write about just movies I love. That's alexanderonfilm.com. And then deliriummagazine.com is the home portal for my mag that Charlie and I run, Delirium, which we're starting our 29th issue now. And then fullmoondirect.com, fullmoonfeatures.com, which is all the world of Full Moon that I'm somehow found myself really deeply ingrained in. And I don't know how that happened, but here I am. So yeah, a lot of stuff, a lot of places to go, and a lot of cool entertainment out there.
Yep. And thanks again for joining us today. It was a real pleasure getting to talk to you.
Thank you guys. And thank you also for letting me detour into the Twilight Zone. Anytime I get a chance to do that, that's pretty exciting. So
same here.
Yeah. So thanks for that. And thanks for liking my little movie. I know, Bee Dawley, I told her that this, she has never really starred in a movie before, and she's just basking in some of the attention she's getting from this, and well deserved. So yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time to be on. It was a true pleasure talking to you, man.
Cheers, man.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
I really enjoyed getting to talk to Chris Alexander.
What a class act.
Yeah. Now we can get into our other interview with Bee Dawley.
Bee Dawley is a model and actress. She's had roles in Polar, Paper Year, the TV show Killjoys, and of course, she's the leading lady in It Knows You're Alone. Welcome, Bee. Thank you for being on High on Horror.
Thank you. And just for the record, my pronouns are actually they and them, if that's cool.
Okay. So yeah, thank you for being on High on Horror. It's great to have you. We're big fans of It Knows You're Alone. And so let's start with the obvious question. Do you smoke?
I do not. No. I used to in my early 20s, and then around 25, it just paranoia hit every single time I did it. So I had to stop. I missed it because I was a wake and baker, but brain chemistry changes.
Understood. So you're not completely against it, though. It's just not for you now.
Oh no, I'm not against it at all. It's just I can't do it.
Okay, awesome. Okay. So are you still a suicide girl?
I technically I am still a suicide girl. They never archived me, which is where they make your profile inactive. I haven't shot a set for them since 2006.
Okay.
Back when most of the suicide girls that are on the site now were too young to be suicide girls. But technically my profile is active.
Okay.
And you were also, after that, involved in Naked News as well. How did you end up getting involved with that?
I auditioned. They put out auditions in the back of this free paper in Toronto called Now Magazine. And in amongst the ads for sensual massage and naked house cleaning, there was an ad looking for someone to come in and read the news naked. And I thought, well, this seems up my alley. I love politics and hate clothing.
And with your other movies, have you always been a fan of the horror genre?
Yes, absolutely. Ever since I was younger. You can't see it right now because this is my normie room. But downstairs, I have a whole room dedicated to horror and Buffy the Vampire Slayer with tons of weapons and all sorts of other things. I've been into horror since I had my first Fangoria magazine subscription and obsessive Goosebumps collection at the age of 8. So.
Oh, Goosebumps is amazing. And you just mentioned Buffy, so I'm going to ask you, because I love Buffy, Spike or Angel?
Oh, okay. I have so many feelings about this. So my favorite of her boyfriends was Riley, and I get so much shit for it, but I love Riley. Riley was a great boyfriend, and she was a terrible girlfriend to him. And
fair enough.
No, he was amazing. Everybody calls him a meathead, but, you know, he was a member of special ops demon hunting crew. He was a TA in a psychology class. He was down to earth. He was sweet. He was kind. He didn't try to murder her, you know, so that's one up on everybody else. But if it's between Spike or Angel, I would choose Spike just because.
Oh, yeah.
Spike, when he was evil, was just kind of a brute. Angel, when he was evil, was big E evil. Spike was just kind of more a chaotic wrecking ball, and Spike worked to get his soul back, whereas Angelus worked to not have his. Like
right, yeah.
Even in demon form, there was humanity in Spike. There was not in Angelus.
That's a fair enough answer. I like Spike more than Angel because he's just more of a dick. But at the end of the day, you're right. You know, William the Bloody is a badass, but Angelus was the big bad. Like, so that's a very good answer. Okay, so what made you make the transition from being a model to an actress?
I was always an actor. Growing up, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in film. And modeling was actually just kind of a conduit towards getting into it. I mean, I was the dorky drama kid in school. And I liked making TV and making movies. And modeling was kind of my foot in the door because I couldn't sing. So musical theater was out. Okay,
well, how did you come to be involved with It Knows You're Alone, and what drew you to the project?
So I met Chris through the actor on It Knows You're Alone, Ali Chappell, who is a friend of mine and a wonderful, wonderful human. And she mentioned the project to me and hooked me up with Chris's number, and we chatted, and we realized that we had a lot of the same horror movie interests in common, and he told me about it, and it sounded like so much fun. Anytime I get to play crazy, I am 100% in. So, I mean, it's not really acting, but it sounded like a fun project, and I watched Chris's other films that he had done, Queen of Blood, and I am blanking.
Yeah, She-Wolf, or I can't remember off the top of my head either. I'm thinking it's the
Titty Mouth.
Yeah. Okay.
That was titties. Oh my goodness! What? Necropolis Legion. And
that's it. Yep.
Right. And I loved it. I thought it was really inventive. I loved how stylistic Chris's movies were, because he doesn't. I feel like he paints a picture as much as he tells a story. And I really like that. I think it's something that a lot of people do nowadays. And I liked his vision, and it sounded like a lot of fun. And frankly, we were under lockdown and COVID, and I had nothing else to do.
Well, it's funny.
I was very excited.
It's funny you said that.
Project.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had a little bit of a delay, so I cut you off there. I was just gonna say it's funny that you had mentioned that his project was like painting a picture, because I was gonna mention that although It Knows You're Alone is like creepy, it definitely is artsy. It has that artsy feel to it. It's not just like a gritty horror movie. It's got almost an artsy feel to it. So when you said painting a picture, like I kind of understood that right away, because when I watched the film, I've watched it twice. I thought like it's kind of artsy for like a supernatural short film.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I mean, it definitely feels like, a moving picture. Like
Right.
it feels like an oil painting come to life. Like it's a moment in time. It's a scene. And I love that because I don't feel like there's a lot of that out there right now. So I jumped at the chance because I thought that would be fun. And it was. We had a blast.
Well, that's great to hear. Yeah,
Shot this thing over.
Chris had said that you guys had a lot of fun as well, and the house that you guys filmed in, it's beautiful. And I have to ask, I know you guys only filmed for 3 days. Did you guys stay at the house during filming?
Oh, I wish we could have. I wish we could have. Again, I'm in my normie room, but if we were downstairs, you'd see all my old furniture. I have a coffin that my parents made me that's fully lined and everything for that they made me for Christmas last year, and a lot of old dusty things. And I love things with character. When I'm not doing all of the other things I'm doing, I'm a tour guide for a haunted walk here in Toronto. And I love the idea of history and possibly there being a ghost. And if any house was haunted, that one absolutely was. But no, we couldn't sleep there. We did sleep in a very nice hotel. And the last night, our hotel was by the Jordan Harbor, where we shot the scenes of the ship and Allie coming out of the water. And I'm a massive Jennifer's Body fan, and so is Allie. So I brought my Jennifer's Body costume, and I got a little needy dress, and we went into that disgusting water in the middle of the night and shot a Jennifer's Body scene. So we still made the most of our nights. Like we shot some photos. We still made the most of our night, but I would have loved to have slept in that house. The bed was so uncomfortable, and I was worried that if I moved it on it the wrong way, I was going to break it because it was not. I'm 6 feet tall, and it was made for people about half my size. So when you see me on it, I'm kind of like bending, and that wasn't so I looked good. That was so that I fit. So it wouldn't have been the greatest sleep in the world, but oh man, I would have loved to have stayed there.
Well, you had mentioned, that if there was a ghost and that there was possibly a ghost in that house. So, and that you do a ghost tour. You said, so are you
Yeah.
you do believe in the supernatural?
Absolutely.
Me too. Me too. I have some crazy stories I could get into, but I'm not going to. But let me just say, I used to be a skeptic, but I'm not anymore.
I think this is the way I explain it to a lot of people. I think that it's less of a matter of do you believe or not, or have you had experiences or not. And I think some people are a little bit more sensitive to it. Like some people get migraines when it rains because they're more sensitive to the pressure. And the idea, the prevailing idea is that ghosts, spirits, whatever, they're leftover bits of energy.
Right.
And I think some people are just more sensitive to it than others. And some people have learned to shut it off, turn it completely off of their minds. Like, for example, I grew up in a very, very old home, and both my father and I had very similar experiences in that house, to the point where when I was young, I used to grab a sleeping bag and go sleep in the floor in my brother's room because my room was terrible. That's where a lot of the activity centered around. My brother now haunts that house because he is 31 years old and has never moved out. But he sleeps in my old room, and he is a psychological dead zone. He has never felt anything. He thinks we're both insane. but my dad and my father and I have had similar experiences in that house. I've had experiences giving tours, being in different places. You feel things, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, maybe it's people. Some people are more sensitive to it than others, you know. But I have been on the other side of it, though. Like, you know, I tell people, you know, like my sister and I were in my. I've told this story on a previous episode. My sister and I were in my bedroom back when I lived at my parents' house. It was like middle school, and you know, we were playing the first PlayStation, and like across the room, I had this old ass radio that my dad had gotten me from somewhere. I don't know where he got it from, but we had problems in the house before, but this radio switched on by itself, and it was all the way across the room. And like, I literally have a butter knife laying on my nightstand next to it because I have to push it with the butter knife because the button's always stuck and jammed, and this thing just switches on by itself across the room. And when I tell people that story, everybody's like, you know, like I see the looks, and I'm like, I get it now. I get how people really don't understand or believe you, and it's like they make you feel crazy, or like you look crazy, and you're like, that shit happened. I can't, like, I'm not gonna lie and say it didn't happen so you believe me. So if you want to think I'm crazy, think I'm crazy, you know.
I think a lot of people too don't want to believe. We have a weird relationship with death and the afterlife right now. We are so far removed from death, and we've sanitized it in a way that historically we never have. So I think people just don't like the idea of it because they're confronted with their own mortality. And if you look at Victorian days, all Victorians believed in ghosts.
Yeah.
And they were deeply connected to their dead. They made wreaths out of their hair. They took photos with them after they had passed. They did not have funeral homes. They just had them up in their house with herbs and salt and ice around them to try and stem the smell, and had their family come and visit them there. And I think the further we remove ourselves from death as a concept, and the further we sanitize death and make it something mechanical, something to be feared, something we put off, the less people believe. And I think those two things are linked.
Yeah, that makes
because
sense.
Because I think it comes down to fear of mortality.
Yeah, and they used to also put the hair of the deceased on dolls. You had mentioned how they had you know, taken hair. They would also make like old porcelain dolls with the hair of a deceased person. So you're right, they did acknowledge death. I think a lot of it is a lot of people are defensive too. When something scares them, they get defensive, and I think that's what it is. But anyway, back to It Knows You're Alone. How many hours a day did you guys film? Because it was only done in 3 days. So was it like a grueling shoot, or was it like short hours?
We went pretty long. We started in the morning, and we would end at night. The first night we almost did have to stay there. We had to be out because this is a gated off little mini farm community that's also used for a lot of shoots. And the rules were we had to be out of there at 9, and we were just leaving at 9, and the gates were closed, and Allie and I couldn't figure out how to open them. And we're like, well, I guess we're staying at the haunted house with the creepy doll there. Great. And then Agnes and Mortimer, which was what I named those pictures of the disapproving people.
Agnes and Mortimer?
Agnes and Mortimer. They did let us out, and I'm not going to lie, I was a little disappointed. I was really hoping that Agnes, Mortimer, and I could have had a slumber party, but unfortunately, we got out.
Wasn't in the cards.
Wasn't in the cards.
Well,
which is too bad, because Agnes, she looked like she could be a party. That disapproving stare, you see it in the movie.
you play the evil witch as well. You know, like at the end, you're the evil witch. What was that was the first time you ever played two roles in a movie. Now I know it was a small role doing that, like just like that one scene at the end. But how was that? How did that feel to play two roles in the same movie?
I mean, technically, yeah, I guess it was two roles. I just always thought of the witch as like an extension of herself. So
That makes sense.
I thought of it kind of as the same role, but you're right. Honestly, that because when we filmed that, when we were filming those scenes, we filmed the end all at once. So I was in the middle of Nervous Breakdownsville on the Natalie end, and then had to go into weird Kubrick stare, mocking, terrifying clown laugh on the other end, which is just two sides of the same unhinged coin. So it really wasn't that much to switch. Although it was fun because the fly that you see flying around when I'm sitting there doing my creepy, creaky stare laugh and pointing, that wasn't put in there in post. That was just a fly flying around, and we happened to catch it in that moment. We're like, well, this is perfect.
Yeah, it definitely paid off.
Little co-star there. Did a good job. Had a little cameo.
And that I was just saying, the naval phone, was that as heavy as it looks?
Oh my goodness, it was so heavy. And I had to try and huck that thing into the water. And at first, I looked at Chris and I'm like, so like, how hard can I throw this thing? And he's like, oh, just throw it really, really far. And I'm like, but what if I throw it out too far and you can't go get it? Because he was the one that had to go get the phone. And he's like, don't worry, you can't throw it that far. And like, I'm 6 feet. I lift weights. I'm a pole dancer. I've got upper body strength. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to huck it. And it was the most pitiful thing. I was so embarrassed by myself. Like, so that's as far as she goes. But it was also like just the weight was balanced weird because it's a phone. It's not a solid piece of equipment. So it was awkward to throw, but yeah, it was heavy. It was a heavy piece of machinery.
It definitely looked like that was not light at all in the movie.
No, that was not my acting. It was just really heavy.
And did you find any difficulties working a film? There's a lot of times where it's just you by yourself and not somebody else to really play off of.
No. Like I said, I did a lot of modeling and a lot of naked news for years, and that's just me on camera, usually the entire time, holding a 5 to 6 minute segment on my own. And so being on camera in a lot of scenes by myself wasn't the problem. The problem was that I couldn't talk because, as I'm sure noticed, I do a lot of that. I'm not used to being quiet. That was the hard part. It's just like, brush the phone and don't say anything. Nothing? Nothing at all? Really? Okay.
And you have Malediction as an upcoming film of yours, and I think I saw it was in post-production, and it's written and directed by Allie, who was also in It Knows You're Alone. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I'm not sure how much I can say. It is another horror movie, written and directed by Allie, also starring Allie. I play the main character's older sister. It is, I don't know how much I can say. I didn't discuss this with Allie beforehand. But that one was a lot of fun to shoot. There's considerably more dialogue in that one. And it is the story of some of the things we see, and sometimes, I'm sorry, I don't know what. I'm trying to be cryptic, but I'm not good at that. Yeah, it's, I don't know how much I can say.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's good. I'm very excited about it. It was my first time driving in 12 years.
Oh, wow.
I had to get my beginner's license all over again just for this movie, but it was worth it. And we hung out at a cabin and found mushroom circles and had a bonfire and shot a movie, and it was a good time. And it's going to be amazing. I'm really proud of Allie. She nailed it. The script is so good. The crew was so good. Much bigger crew this time around. And everybody did a phenomenal job. The creepy elements in it just like still creep me out. And it's going to be, I'm so excited for it to come out and for people to watch it. And I'm so proud of Allie. She nailed it, and it's going to be amazing.
And I believe that comes out next year, right? In 2022.
I think so. Yes. I don't have any actual dates. So.
And do you have any other projects you're currently working on?
I do. I am writing a screenplay of my own. It's a horror comedy about a cam girl that inherits some haunted furniture. So it's my first feature-length screenplay. Allie's going to be in it, playing the ghost. And it's going to be fun. There's going to be blood and boobs and jokes and an eyeball that pops out. It's great.
Sign us up.
And where can people keep up online with you on social media about any upcoming projects you have?
I am at Overlayer B. So like a layer, the overlayer. BEE on all socials. Twitter, Instagram, not Snapchat. Nobody uses Snapchat anymore. TikTok.
And we want to thank you again for joining us today. We've really enjoyed It Knows You're Alone. And we look forward to your upcoming projects, and hopefully we'll talk with you soon.
Thank you, and thanks for letting me ramble.
Oh, no problem. Thanks to the horror hounds and smokers out there. Thanks again to Chris Alexander and Bee Dawley for joining us today. Make sure to check out It Knows You're Alone on Full Moon Features. And I got to say, we had a lot of fun here on season 1. And thanks to everyone who helped and supported us. My fiance Nicole, Drew's wife Sam, for supporting us, Josh for producing our episodes and making us sound so good, to Josh's wife Kristen for letting us steal him so he can edit our silly show. And we also got to thank Mel and Stephanie Carcace. They've really helped us navigate everything and get set up. If you ever want to start your own podcast, check out their Hey Podcaster course. We want to thank David Howard Thornton for being our first guest, getting this all kicked off for us. And I think we'll definitely talk to him again soon. I mean, Terrifier 2's it's got to be coming out around the corner, don't you think?
Fuck yeah.
And we also want to thank all of our other guests, Fuzz on the Lens Productions, Jason and Michael Levy, Frank Farrell, Stephen Menace, CJ Graham, Tom McLaughlin, and Vincent Guastafaro for being on our 35th anniversary of Jason Lives. Craig Loigren, we're still going to go ghost hunt and roast a ghost, and we'll see if you can convince me on Ghost. You already got Drew on your side. Delaware's own Dave Sheridan, that was another fun one. Lyndon Porco, Alex Vincent, he was the first person to smoke with us on an episode. That was amazing. Let me see, who else am I missing here? Jason Brooks, Tom Matthews and his Four Fingers of Colombian Dirtweed, Christopher Allender, Krista Barini, and David Vista from the Old Ways, Vincent DeSanti. I believe he was our longest interview this season.
Yeah.
Laura Marie Taylor and our Brown Panties. We definitely got some gummies for you at the next con. And make sure to check out our podcast, Not the Final Girl podcast. Stacey Nelkin, Brandon Christensen, Jennifer Reeder, the Archduke of Nightmares, Psycho Gorman, Matthew Ninneber, Ian from 616 Entertainment, and effects legend Gabriel Bartalos. Make sure to check out our social media, our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok at High on Horror 420. You can always email us at highonhorror420@gmail.com. Make sure to check out our website, highonhorror.com. You can go there to subscribe to our newsletter, and you'll get the latest guest announcements and episodes delivered directly into your inbox. And we will be back with you all full force with episode 21 on January 10th. Like I said, make sure to follow us on social media because we're not going to be going away fully. We'll have a review for Resident Evil Raccoon City for you on November 29th. And we'll have a Christmas episode as well. And we'll pop up from time to time with some reviews for you. And I guess that'll about wrap the season up.
Yeah, what a fucking season, man. We did it. What a season. 2 little dudes from Delaware. Holy shit. I'm proud of this body of work we've done. What a great season, man. It's an honor to sit next to you and do this shit.
Oh, yeah,
I'm proud
man.
of it. I'm proud of us.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and we'll catch you in, full force. We'll catch you in January, but you'll see us from time to time. Catch you later.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for listening.